Hi, everybody. Welcome to FNS Wrestling Podcast. It's weird to not say the normal thing, but it is not. It is our best of 2024. Happy New Year, everybody. It is January 1st, 2025. We are getting this thing out.
Got it.
Very timely fashion.
Actually timely this time.
And it's Bizarro World because you are the one who is prepared well before me.
I've been prepared all year pretty much.
And then and you've almost had to nag me a little bit to be like, how far along are you? How far along are you? So I finished today.
I've had it ready since I've had it mostly ready probably since the year is half over.
Yeah, you deep dive into this.
Yeah.
In some categories, it's evident that this is you who designed this. So
yes.
I appreciate it. This is a fun episode to do.
Okay, that's where I pick up my slack.
And you just came down here. We went to a New Year's party last night down the street at Chuck's basement. Shout out to Chuck. Not that he listens, but his basement's been mentioned here before.
His basement.
So I would say 25 adults, and how many kids your age and younger? You're the oldest.
Less than a couple dozen maybe.
Yeah, so pushing 50 people in his suburban home. So it was a good time. You left, I don't know, at 1-ish?
Around 1, yeah.
Your brother and your mother left at 12, a hot exit at 12:04 probably.
I'm surprised Nate didn't stay longer, but
yeah, your mom I knew was out.
No, that's a given.
Are
always like, "Oh my god, you're still here," when it's 11:50
exactly. You left around 1, I think, and I left at 2. So it was a good time. I had fun.
It's always solid.
It's a night of, I was thinking that's a night of heavy drinking for me, which means 4 drinks in 6. I think I was there 6.5 hours. So I had 2 beer and a shot and a half probably. So that's just me binge drinking there. That's crazy. But yeah, I had a good time. Got up today, finished my best of. So we thought we would do that. So format, go over it. What's our plan?
So I got my short round of random crap that I like to do, and then we think you're gonna introduce the category. I'll rhyme off our nominees, and then we're gonna alternate who goes first and whatnot.
And we also have our winners from last year.
And winners from last year, which is something we introduced last year.
But a couple new categories as well.
New categories, yeah. And then on the table here, I decided to put together all my favorite figures I've picked up this year. Nice. We got the Death Triangle 3-pack over there, which is incredibly inaccurate.
I almost wore my Death Triangle shirt, but I went with shameless self-promotion
Bang
instead.
Gang up here, which is not reflective of how I feel about this group. I just like the shirt. I got JD McDonough. We got Takeshita, obviously.
That's a sweet figure.
Both Pete Dunnes, even though they're butch, and they got some articulation issues, but I love them.
Careful, it's still a hot button for him, according to Raw this week.
Nakamura, I have the regular version too, but I thought the red one was cooler. And
it is.
He feels super smooth pose-wise. I'm glad to get a new Hangman. Switchblade's probably the best one I've gotten, and then Darby figures are
You should
fantastic.
be using your Temu figure stands that were in your stocking.
That's true. I forgot about.
Because I will knock these. I've already knocked over a couple just getting set up.
It's too late now.
So I think we should just get right into it, right?
I mean,
it's going to be a while.
I don't think you need to do any timestamp breaks. It's just,
I'm not going to do timestamps. We're just going to go, and then I'll decide how much video production I want to throw into it later.
The whole thing. That's professional.
So that being said, I did make notes at the top here that all rosters are combined.
I think you did that last time, yeah, and we've just...
Since you don't really watch NXT, neither of us watch... Well, I watch Raw.
That's how I know this is outdated, because this is just copy and paste from last time.
And we watch all the WWE PLEs, to be fair.
I think
watch all... Oh, no.
We didn't watch the Germany one, and we didn't watch Saudi.
True. What was the German one?
Bash in Berlin.
We didn't watch that.
I didn't watch it. I don't know, because...
Did I even cherry pick it? What were that doesn't matter.
Gunther Orton, there was a women's tag match. I think that was a strap match with Punk and McIntyre.
I don't even think
it wasn't anything really worthwhile.
Rare for me.
Well, even
less
still,
rare for you.
WWE shows they're not. I always say this. I would never miss an AEW pay-per-view. That's all I'm gonna say.
I agree, and we have to review World's End as well, right?
That is true.
Which we will get into. But
World's End.
So let's start off with these are the ones that are most fun for you, I think.
I get it.
The honorary awards, you. So I may interrupt you at some point.
Feel it's necessary.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I picked for Return of the Year was Pete Dunne. That was the happiest moment in my life.
You'd been calling for that for...
I was begging for that for 2 years, and then they spent the rest of the year making me regret asking for it.
And it's an interesting quote-unquote return, too, because he was never gone.
That's why I think it's funny.
Never gone.
That's why I think it's funny to pick it. I said best would-be name. I think it was credit to Authors of Wrestling, but the Packpool Combat Club before Death Riders formed. That was pretty funny. Drew McIntyre gets Rightest Guy.
He is rightest guy. He'll come up in my awards this year.
He is the rightest guy. The sympathy award goes to Big E for that New Day segment
of all time. Yes.
Yeah.
This could be a 2024 or all time for me almost.
Best belt of the year, like the best new belt this year was the WWE Tag Titles, the ones on SmackDown.
That's a very you thing.
Those
to put
ones
in
are
here.
beautiful. Honorable mention to the women's IC title because that was beautiful, but that's not a new design per se.
I'm just seeing what your next one is. That's fun.
Least teeth, most fun is Mark Briscoe because we love him.
Who are the other nominees, or you just wanted to find a way to get Mark Briscoe?
I just thought that would be a good show for him.
Quite enjoyed him.
Best babyface, I think like Will Ospreay does really well. I couldn't think of many choices. Like I guess you could show like Sami Zayn or guys like that.
That should be an actual category.
I feel like you could, but it kind of goes with best character maybe. Best heel, I went with Hangman. I love him. His work this year has been crazy. And I remember at the beginning of the year,
they're tinkering with it, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, I guess, but it's late now.
Oh man, I was watching a random. I wish I could remember who it was. Snippet of going on a rant about how, like, yelling about how they blew it because Hangman should be their current champion, face of everything, and they've just sort of.
I just disagree. I think
he made a very sound argument, which is why I wish I could give him credit, because I was like, I don't think you're wrong necessarily.
Like, what would they do then? He's beating Moxley, like.
He would already be champion, I think they're saying.
Instead of Moxley?
They missed something along the line, and he should be.
I guess
with as hot as his character was.
You could have capitalized after the Swerve match, but then you wouldn't get those Switchblade matches, which
true.
I kind of love those, but
sorry,
Hangman's work has been great. And that was with me at the beginning of the year not wanting him to turn heel either because he was such a good babyface.
No,
so that's a testament to him.
He is just an awesome professional wrestler in all capacities, I think.
I thought best new match concept was the Casino Gauntlet. That was something that got introduced this year, and I thought every time it was really fun on TV. Especially, I think it was the Forbidden Door one that had like Leo Rush and Hedge.
I think I've liked all of them.
Yeah, they've been all really fun. The tag one was kind of fun. The one at All In was pretty good. Like, and Ospreay wins every time he's in it. Like that was always really cool. I thought my favorite entrance of the year was All In. It was a lot bigger than last year. Mania, I didn't care because I thought Mania 39 was really cool.
I couldn't think of any, to be honest.
Best one-up entrance is kind of a tie between like the super amped up crowd entrances with Sami Zayn in Montreal or Jey Uso in France for Backlash.
Giving Uso some love, eh?
I think you put that there and I left it there.
It was crazy.
It was, so I'll give him credit. My favorite ring gear was probably Kyle Fletcher full gear in the all white. But honorable mention to Swerve because he wore white too and it had like the flame graphics, obviously because it was in the cage match, and blue Penta Azul.
Right.
Pentagon Azul. Mask of the year is obviously going to go to Mordos because what an outfit that man has.
Really grown on me because at first I was annoyed that the Tarus mask was
gone. It's basically the same. It's just
very
altered, right?
Reminiscent, at least, yes.
Right. I think they kept it as close as they could, and I really like that.
Me too.
This one's a good reference for us. Is ankle nose of granite for Darby Allin. Because obviously he broke his ankle in the match with Jay White and then got hit by a bus 2 weeks later.
That's right.
That he had a crazy span. I don't know what the deal with him is, but
he cannot die, I think.
Career renaissance for Shelton Benjamin because man, have I loved his work this year. Oh, just absolutely crazy. But it's been
showing up at 50 years old and just having awesome matches, almost 50. Every week after week. He's just looking tough.
So good.
He is.
Best spear, or I guess super spear, goes to Braun Breaker.
So here, they need to figure out, if you want to call the one where he does a lap of the ring and spears him a super spear, I think it's stupid, but I'll defend your right to do it. But you can't just call
it every time.
Everyone. But yes, his spear, and he was under consideration for a bunch of awards for me too, Breaker.
That's fair. He's had a good year, and he's really great. Neck of Granite for Pac because of the way he sells DDTs.
Unbelievable.
He's insane. My favorite best wrestling DJ, I went with Okada because there was the match against the Acclaim where he mocked Caster.
Yes.
And so I gave him that because I thought that was funny. Funniest wrestler, I went with Okada as well because he always made me giggle.
And funniest with doing the least. He doesn't even do much, but it's funny.
Yeah, he was great. I thought shock debut of the year was Ethan Page in NXT. Like I never saw that coming.
No, me either.
I feel like Julia and Becker were also cool, but we saw those coming. Zarya was reported for a while, right?
Yes.
Shawn Spears was surprising too, but for me, Ego was like completely left field, so I thought that one was cool.
Interesting, just sort of sidebar as I was looking at, because now Netflix has WWE stuff. When you look at NXT, the faces that they show are Trick, Roxanne Perez, Ethan Page, and Lola Vice. So I feel like that has to mean something.
It might, yeah.
Like that's who they think.
and I was looking at on Netflix. They have NXT Vault, which is
You're
every
so happy.
episode of NXT from 2.0 onwards. But before that, it's every takeover ever on Netflix, which I think is awesome for us. And so, well, hopefully someone's got to hold us to it. Hopefully, maybe Ghost Jam, but we gotta finish the good gold days, because now we could easily do it. That was the problem, right?
It was the problem.
Now it's like
infuriating to use the app or whatever I paid for.
And now it's incredibly easy. And we said we would shorten it to every takeover anyway. So now it's like just, oh, here it is. I'm like, oh, sweet. So we can finally get back on track with that.
We can.
Samoan of the year is Jacob Fatu, obviously the
Samoan of every
mad
year.
lad. Samoan forever.
That'll be his until I see it.
Because what are you gonna tell him different? I don't think so.
Not at all.
And then finally, my title change of the year goes to Keshta winning the international title. You know, gotta love it. That was a great match though, and second happiest moment of my life.
Second happiest moment of your life
after Pete Dunne.
After Pete Dunne returning, his return this year. All right, so those are your fun ones you do quickly. Now we'll get into our more serious awards.
The real stuff that actually matters.
The real stuff. So go ahead. And our first category, I guess that's my job, right, is to... And just to say, we will also be putting out a worst of, where we kind of mirror the categories.
We do our best to mirror it. Some of them have a bit of differences, but like that's just gonna happen.
So if you enjoy this, I think the more fun one is the worst of, because we really, I don't know.
So it's kind of weird for me, because I do like to be negative about stuff, right?
Yes,
that's my thing. But I find it a lot easier to find.
Your brand is negativity.
But I find it easier to do the best stuff, because like it's a lot easier to find the really good things. Sometimes I struggle to find like really horrible things, because sometimes like with AEW worst matches, sometimes there's not a ton of matches that I hate. You know what I mean? So it's like I enjoy them both for different reasons. So it's kind of tough to tell which I like better, because we did take a while with the worst of last time.
I've started it, but it won't be ready for a bit yet. Mm-hmm. But anyway, sorry. Our first category this year, probably every year we've done it.
Yeah, we always start here.
Best commentator.
And last year we both picked Excalibur. He's also nominated this year, as is Tony Schiavone, Taz, Joe Tessitore, new addition there, and Tom Hannafan of TNA.
I'm pretty sure that Excalibur's won it probably 23, 22, 21.
Probably every time, I think. Right. I don't know.
I like Hannafan. Yeah. He is good. I just don't watch enough TNA anymore. Mm-hmm. But
do you want to go then?
Okay, that was my first point, I guess. I didn't even remember. Yeah, so it's Excalibur again, as it always has been for us. He is just by far the most consistent commentator that we see on a regular basis, right? He's just rock solid. Misses the odd move call, but very
generally
rarely.
He's like pretty on it.
And
he's
also
helpful.
Some things that I don't know what they are, he calls, because even in our notes we'll have thanks Excalibur.
Exactly.
So he's just the perfect tone for that product, right? Because I don't want him to feel WWE. I don't want
he doesn't.
Like faux energy and that kind of stuff. He just seems even though he's a dude wearing a mask, he seems kind of real.
Yeah, he always seems like appropriate, right?
Yes, he's my pick again.
Would like to mention Schiavone as well. I do enjoy him.
He's
a lot
good
of the time.
in his role, yes.
And he's kind of classic, so he's nice out there. And I did give an honorable mention to Nigel, because we didn't love him for most of the time. I found after the the Dancing feud kind of got going and like put into context, some of his work was a lot better. And honestly, in the latter part of the year, there were a lot of lines that made me chuckle. So I got to give him some sort of mention, just for he was quite amusing at times once he got better.
Now that he is not fixated on Danielson, because we were discussing whether I would nominate him for worst of, because he annoyed me so greatly for so long.
But I think he got there, right? And
now he's pretty.
And his simping on Mariah May is kind of funny. Like I think it was at Worlds, and he said "simping ain't easy," which was pretty funny.
He's pretty good at being the heel commentator,
which
right?
You can't say about some people on the worst of.
Oh my god, yes, that's an easy one.
Then honorable mention to Don Callis, because he's usually just a guest commentator, but I thought he was really good on the MLP show with Morrow.
Yes,
kind of like
Morrow. Yeah,
they were kind of a nice retro feeling team.
That was
there.
A very good show.
Yeah, and Don's he's pretty amusing anytime he's a guest commentator on Dynamite. I remember at World's End, the meat puppet line was a favorite of ours.
And just how like mean Schiavone is to him usually brings out something
I love
funny
that too. So like that's what I'm saying. He even brings it better than other people. And then shout out tomorrow, because the legend's back in the game.
Yeah, that was nice.
But yeah, it's gonna be Excalibur again. He's just all around the best quality for me. He knows pretty much all the moves that helps me out when I'm taking notes, especially when it's ones I don't know. He's good as kind of an impartial commentator too, because usually Nigel is like the heel and Schiavone is obviously babyface, and Excalibur usually leans babyface, but he does a good job of like kind of sitting in the middle, right? And he's had some funny lines as well. He's the most real, like you said, and he's just the most enjoyable and useful to me, and so he's just around my favorite.
It's that kind of, you're just watching another sports thing presentation that I like.
Yeah,
as a big sportsman.
I think he's really good. And I do want to also shout out Tessitore because for a new edition, he's done quite well.
Yeah,
I think.
his energy sometimes is kind of inconsistent, but he sounds good.
For someone so new to it, I think he's done
I
a
agree.
good job.
Yes. All right. Next category then
A
is
newbie.
a Jack special. That's for sure.
Yeah.
This is taking a look at the best theme song, and it has to be one released this year, correct?
That is the criteria.
So you go ahead because this is definitely
okay.
you.
So top of the list is Burnin' Daylight for Bang Bang Gang. Hangman's theme Black Hat. Stand Tall, which is Pete Dunne. Flex on 'em was the new Private Party one, which they kind of went back
I
on,
enjoy
which
that
I thought was
one.
odd, but I did really like it. I listened to it a lot. Uppercut Moonlight, which is Claudio's new heel theme, I really like. The Hurt Syndicate's theme was really good.
Yep.
The Vision from Rollins, which is a re-release, but we'll get there. Shining Forever, which is Benjamin's theme, and the last one was they just released Ricochet's theme, which is Into the Ricoverse.
Oh, the Rickoverse?
Yeah. Honorable mention to Kyle Fletcher's theme, Diamonds Up, because it was released at like the very end of last year, so technically I'm not putting it here, but I really like it.
Mm-hmm.
And Hangman's theme's great because Vincent Padula, the guy who he's made that one, the one before, and then the greatest theme ever made.
Coming up.
His work is impeccable. So every Hangman theme he's made, I really like. And it's worth noting, I think AEW definitely puts out better music, generally speaking. They involve a lot of real artists. Like, I know the Hurt Syndicate theme is MVP and a couple other rappers. There's one featured on Benjamin's theme.
It gets worse once you can clearly hear MVP, in my opinion.
A little bit, but it's not bad. Private Party's theme has another, I forget who it is. And then, obviously, Hangman's theme is made by an outside guy as well, right? And so I really like their music. The only WWE songs on here are Rollins and Dunn, and those are both re-released themes from 2021. They just got some, I think, sound retooling. I do think they sound a lot better, but it's just like those are the only themes that they got from Death Rebel. So I was like, just feather in AEW's cap at least. But there was always one choice here, and arguably the reason I put this here,
I think so,
which is
you worked backwards from the winner.
Yeah, pretty much was to pick Burnin' Daylight because the second they debuted it on, I believe, January 17th. From that day, I impatiently waited for nearly 2 months for them to release it.
You did,
and then since then, I think it's safe to say I've listened to it an unhealthy amount of times. I think I listen to it a couple times a day.
Your phone can tell you, can't it?
I don't have the Spotify thing. I don't know if we can find it on
Apple
Music, but maybe we could. But yeah, because I usually listen to the themes when I'm walking and whatever, and so I listen to that like an unbelievable amount. It's just got a really cool sound to it. It's just a vibe, and it's just kind of catchy, and you can just like I don't know how you can't not like it. It's got like that trumpet sounding part that I really like. It's just it fits them really well. I think it goes perfect with the slight Western feel they have and like the guns up intro and the spotlight entrance going around. Like it just kind of fits them perfectly, and it's rare I love a theme so much. It's almost like I have a hard time deciding if I like this or Hangman's old theme better because it's like it's really close. But I really love this theme a lot.
So, and I'm shouting out a couple that weren't released this year, but just because they're good.
That's fair.
People might not know it. I think the theme, the Righteous's theme from TNA, from ROH.
I really like their theme too.
Is really good and suits them, and it's kind of like original Bray Wyatt vibes, which was my favorite iteration of him. And then, reminder, the greatest theme of all time is Aleister Black's NXT. Just so people, what's it called?
Root of All Evil.
Right. But yes, Hangman's heel theme grew on me.
I do really like it too. I think like obviously I will always prefer his old one, but I thought for the new character, this one was a really good.
I agree. And Hurt Syndicate snuck in a pretty good one near the end of the year. But again, once you get deeper into it and the rapping starts, I don't love it as much. But there is only one I would really think I would listen to on my own, and that is Burnin' Daylight. It's awesome.
It's so good.
Just a super catchy piece of music, no lyrics, right? And I think it really suits the group that it's for.
I absolutely love it.
It's a great song.
Mm-hmm.
That is my choice. All right, next one, another one that's a you special for sure, and that is I guess we did it last year. Is Best General Entrance.
Last year we had Swerve Strickland earning it from both of us.
Yep.
Our nominations for this year are of course Bang Bang Gang. Swerve makes it back in. I think those were the two front running last year for sure. The Rock with his final boss entrance. We got Metaphor. Malachi Black, House of Black can kind of go under one umbrella. Similar idea there. Kyle Fletcher, I thought really upped his entrance once he turned heel. And then Ospreay's had a really good entrance ever since he came to AEW.
Yeah, awesome. It's my turn,
It is.
So I really like Metaphor.
I do really like theirs too.
They've been a Meta 2 for most of this year.
Yeah, which
so
kind of sucks.
They don't win, and I don't notice these things nearly as much as you. But the one I enjoy the most, I think, every time is Swerve. I love Bang Bang Gangs as well, but I'll take Swerve again. Just love the song, love his look, generally his gear, his facial expressions, and then you've got Nana beside him with the contrast with him dancing and the humor. You got the crowd involvement now with the Who's House stuff. So I'm going what's that, 2 years in a row for me? I'm taking Swerve Strickland.
Honorable mention to the Rock's entrance, because usually I'm not into the main roster pageantry, but I thought his entrance was like, he mashed up. It would start as his modern theme, but then transition into the theme he used as Hollywood Rock in 03. So I thought that was really cool.
Didn't even stand out to me. I don't even remember.
They had the cool lighting and effects, like the lightning and whatnot. And so I thought it was just kind of a really cool presentation all around. I didn't really care for him, but I did think the entrance was cool. And since they were more prominent on AEW this year, I thought like I wanted to talk about Malachi Black and House of Black. So I love you see them in the spotlight, then the lights go out and he appears on the
very cool
in different parts of the
just doesn't
ring
matter.
or whatever. So I really love it, and I like Malachi's current theme. It's no NXT theme, but it's still really good. And so they have like that cool lighting pattern on the crowd too. Like their presentation's really cool. It just sucks they don't do more. But Bang Bang Gang had to take this one for me. It was incredibly close between them and Swerve last year, but a combination of factors gave them the edge this time. Because they're mostly the same from last year, but Bang Bang Gang, they only did this spotlight group entrance once at All Out, because otherwise, remember, it was most of the Guns who did the spotlight thing first. This year, like, they kind of adopted it as a group thing.
Because it's cool.
And it's really cool. It's all camera work, but, like, it looks so cool every time, to the point where I wish they had come when Dynamite came to Toronto, and they didn't.
It's a very seemingly simple thing to do, and it looks very cool.
It's so cool. They all have, like, their roles when the camera's panning around, especially when Juice came back. He's amusing too. He could honestly, you make a case for him being funnier than Okada if you really wanted to, because he really amuses me. But Swerve, for me, he kind of lost some edge with turning face, and so I feel like the shtick with Nana, it's still great and I love it, but the novelty wore off a bit for me. And so I think Bang Bang Gang it's really cool camera work, and I think the look of it is really nice, and then getting that new theme song really bumps it up for me. So I really love it, and I hope they start doing it again, because right now Jay White's been kind of rolling on his own, so he hasn't been using the theme or doing the entrance.
Right.
So hopefully that all comes back. Cause it's they could take the award for just the theme song alone, but I'm gonna pick Bang Bang Gang because I was close last year, but I'm not taking this time.
Next category, we have best non-wrestling performer. This one was
interesting
tough for me.
I took Callis last year, and you took Prince Nana.
I did.
Both of them are in here, in addition to Paul Heyman, Marina Shafir, which is crazy, MVP, and Mother Wayne.
Yes.
Is it me this time?
It is you this time.
We are horrible at this.
We are.
I did want to shout out Paul Heyman, because in spite of how the bloodline had declined, I thought I wrote, it desperately tried to cling to life like a cockroach. He was still great value as a talker and performer. Some of his promos this year back when he was doing the shtick where he was like scared of Solo bringing these guys, I thought, like, I didn't buy it, but Paul made me want to buy it. You know what I mean? Like, his acting was really good, and so I think even though the story wasn't that great and I didn't care, I think he deserves credit for his work still being really good.
And I didn't consume any SmackDown, so I didn't see any of it. Really,
that's fair.
Right?
And so I thought he was really good.
I'm sure he was great, but I didn't see.
He had a cool speech at the Hall of Fame. Like, his induction was really well earned for like a non-wrestler. Because I feel like sometimes they struggle. Like, they inducted Queen Charmel a couple years ago.
Yeah, I remember.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, but Paul's like one that I think is really well deserved, especially since they've adopted the ECW library and whatnot, right? So I think that's really, it's earned for him. Callis and Nana are still strong, but I feel like both the roles diminished this year. Nana was less of a factor as Swerve turned face and became champion. He's great, but we all know Swerve can sustain himself. Callis wasn't as present for a lot of the year, I feel like, even though he's still beside Takeshita. I feel like his heel presence lessened until Takeshita and then Fletcher started feuding with Ospreay. So he was great once he started getting more involved and he became the supervillain that we like him to be again, but it wasn't as much as last year, I felt. And so I think I'm going to give it to Marina Shafir. Once upon a time, she was an easy candidate for one of the worst women's wrestlers around. Hell, if we had done this in 2018, back when she was with Baszler, she would have been one of the worst non-wrestling performers.
With or Fight and Play?
Yeah. But to my surprise, she came back this year beside Moxley, and we liked it.
We did.
Her silent killer role is badass and effective. She looks sick taking on male wrestlers, even if they're the ones lower down the card, and also more recently taking a Blade Runner from Switchblade.
Yep.
She sounds cool, like when she spoke a little bit in her native language, and she's just a believable heater for Mox. As long as she's not wrestling, I think she's been fantastic, and this might be the best thing for her career. She's like an MMA version of China, and I think it's really cool for her. I think the storyline started out great, and I still think it's good, but it's definitely kind of lost some spark. But I think regardless, her role has been really good, and a bit of a career renaissance for her, even though it's not wrestling. I think it's still like it gets her on TV. She's prominent. Like she looks really sick. So I like, and the fact that she's even here is a testament to the improvement. So I'm gonna give it to her.
I struggled with her just because she doesn't actually do anything. But then again, that's a compliment to her because she doesn't do. But anyways, I stuck with Nana. His shtick has not grown old with me, and I figured it would by now. And he's starting because of the face turn. I think right. He's taken some physicality. He's just the most memorable one, but I think it's kind of like a really down year or lacking in this category. There was nobody that like grabbed my attention really this year.
That was Shafir for me.
Yeah, she was close. That's definitely a good choice. I went with Nana again. I don't know.
Next is one of my favorite categories.
Yes. All right. So the next one coming up is, this is one of the bigger ones. So it is our segment or vignette of the year.
Last year we picked the infamous Invasion of the Buddy Wayne Academy. Absolutely legendary. It
was great.
One of Swerve's best. Maybe not his best, though. We'll get there.
Yeah.
On the first item of the year, we had Christian Cage's State of the Union address. That was some promo to the crowd. I remember there was some good work with Luchasaurus back then.
Yes.
Sucks that hasn't panned out for him, but hopefully he's doing well. There was a really good segment with Hangman, Swerve, and Joe. I think that was the Revolution Go
I remember
Home.
loving that.
Ospreay and Strong had a face-to-face on Dynamite on May 15th. That was really good. Even for Roddy, for Roddy to have a really good promo, I really enjoyed that. Pete Dunne wants Trick to figure it out July 30th on NXT.
Are you saying Pete Dunne can actually talk? That's crazy.
That is wait, he can be a serious character and cool?
Yeah, I know.
What? The first Uncle Howdy Bo Dallas vignette, that was awesome.
Really, really good.
The Rowan-centric one.
Oh, how far they've fallen.
Yeah, the Rowan-centric one was also fantastic.
I love them both.
Hangman burns Swerve's house on the All Out Go Home, September 4th, and New Day's 10-year celebration from Raw, December 2nd.
Man, those last two are tough. Is it me or you?
Is you, I think.
Is it?
I think so, yeah.
All right, so we kind of went the opposite of how I thought we'd go on this one.
I flip-flop back and forth a lot.
So that's why my first note you'll see says this might be the ultimate honorable mention of all time.
I initially went with it, but
I'm trying to avoid recency bias, so New Day does not win this. But man, it could win any other year pretty much because it was a captivating segment, and I know you're going to talk about it too. It had me feeling like I was watching a grown man's heartbreak on live TV.
Yeah,
it was
legendary.
Something special. Amazing pro wrestling.
That's like segment. A breakup on par with, if not better than, the Rockers and the Shield, right?
Oh, it'll be an iconic one, I think.
Yeah, decades from now, it'll be talked about in the same breath as those ones.
The Salmon Blazer.
Yeah,
that stuff. So, but I have to take Hangman burning Swerve's family home. I think it's going to be the thumbnail for this episode because I made it a long time ago. It's the segment of the year, just over the top in the best way possible, right? It provided just an indelible image of Hangman sitting there in front of the burning house, which they made their live
fireplace channel,
their fireplace channel on Christmas.
It's been his Titantron movie ever since. Every time he enters, even now.
And I think just the strength of that feud that was just so amazing as well added to this segment, made it more memorable. It's an all-timer for me that I'll always remember. So I went with Hangman burning down Swerve's family home for my segment of the year.
I made a note that I'm pretty happy with the, diversity of the lineup this year, because we have the typical AEW fare, but NXT and Raw got in on the mix, and
That's
not
right.
just for token WWE entries, but genuinely good ones I'm happy with. Dunne's vignette was the bruiserweight I've been asking for since Butch debuted, and that hasn't always been the case this year, but that vignette and some of his work in NXT when he was temporarily there
just reminds you that he's capable.
He is, and it's just I don't understand what's happening. And the initial Wyatt vignettes were fantastic and nearly won, namely the heartbreaking Rowan one. That one was
so good. Yes,
that one was good. I had an extremely hard time picking it this year. I had two main choices in mind. At one point, I had one picked. At one point, it was the other one.
Me too.
It without a doubt comes down to the one you picked and the New Day segment. I watched both of these back over in preparation for this, and it really could go either way. If I really felt like it, I could just flip flop my.
That's why I'm glad we covered our bases here.
Yeah. And I'm going to go with Hangman burning Swerve's house. The New Day segment, to their credit, was fantastic, and the fact the decision came so close is a testament to how masterful it was. Big E acted his heart out, and no matter what, deserves props for that, because it was incredible. It was enough for me to have it picked at one point, but at the end of the day, I think Hangman Swerve's feud eclipses the New Day storyline. Hangman versus Swerve is a generational feud, and I think it was already going to go down as memorable, but this segment ensured it. The visual of Hangman seated in front of a burning house will live forever, and it gets continued usage on his Tron. It was the high point, I think, of one of the greatest feuds we've ever
and
seen.
even just the lead up being like Swerve buys his family
Yeah,
home,
they made such a
right?
big deal of it, and I just thought like, oh, it's cool because he just re-signed, and I thought nothing of it. And then later in the night, he burns.
He
it,
now
which is
has
crazy.
the contract money to buy his mom their family home, and then
the promo leading up to it was great too. And Hangman was walking through the house with the gasoline, and no doubt it's the peak of the obsessive heel Hangman character. It's a segment that will be and deserves to be remembered forever,
and that they actually did it right because there's footage from other angles and stuff now, so it's not just like.
Which is crazy. Like I don't know how. Like
me either, but yeah, it's awesome.
Maybe the house wasn't livable, so it's like let's just do it.
Maybe, or it's a different house or whatever. But that they just said was
maybe.
Great stuff. Anyways, now we get into the next category, which is a new one this year. It looks like it is our most underrated, I guess, wrestler of the year.
So like a great wrestler that doesn't get enough credit in our eyes.
Yes,
and we will have the opposite.
Yep, we will
on our worst of.
We will.
So our nominations are Bastard Pac over there, Roddy Strong, Mark Briscoe Samoa Joe, and Beast Mordos. I could even put Takeshita, but I feel like he got enough love this year. Like it was starting to go up, you know? So it's me this time,
I
right?
think so.
Honorable mentions to Pac and Roddy. Pac is absolute money in every capacity.
He is.
One of the best sellers and promos around. He's all around great, and he flies, pun intended, under the radar. The Death Triangle Bang Bang Gang match was sweet, and he had those matches with Okada and Ospreay that were really great.
Amazing.
And I'm glad Death Riders, love it or hate it, has given him more TV time, right?
Yes.
So I'm happy with that in any regard.
I think Pac Okada would have been my favorite opener, right? I love that match.
Absolutely. Either that or maybe Ospreay Fletcher from
that too.
World's End. And Roddy's another who's absolute fire in the ring. Not as much on promos as Pac, but some of his matches this year were really great. Like the Ospreay match at Double or Nothing, I remember you really liked. The O'Reilly match at Dynasty was really, really good. The one that really caught my eye was the Swerve match on Dynamite when Swerve was champion. They just had that title match. Remember Roddy was claiming to be he was supposed to be in the Gauntlet match or something.
Yes.
And so I just remember that match being really good. I was just like, that was the match that was like, man, Roddy can still go. He's so good. And he had that segment with Ospreay, like I mentioned. So he's really underrated, as matches like that remind me how damn good he is. And so even though he got dragged down by that crap feud with
Cole did. MJF, everyone involved in that.
He still did some great stuff this year, and that deserves to be remembered. Speaking of doing great stuff that needs to be remembered, though, I have to pick Samoa Joe because he kicked off the year with a near impeccable, albeit brief title run that I don't see get enough praise.
It was great.
We loved it pretty much. I would almost call it flawless. I myself often forget he was the one that Swerve beat to finally get his moment. Like I feel like that should have been a bigger moment.
He wasn't supposed to be champion even.
I don't know.
I think when Joe got it, there were other plans.
Maybe because MJF was getting hurt. Remember,
and he ended up like just running with that ball.
Yeah. His title win at the end of 2023 was a pleasant surprise, and I always knew he'd do good as champion, but I think he still exceeded my expectations. Every promo he had was great. His stance as a champion, willing to fight, but like he wanted to fight those who were worthy in his eyes. And he like walked the line between being calm and confident to being like this brutish killer. He walked the line so expertly. He always made sure he had a presence. Like I remember there was the one segment, I think it might have been the one we mentioned earlier, where Hangman and Swerve are yapping about their feud, and he like reasserts his place, and they're like, "I'm not the third wheel. You're not. I'm the champion, right?" Like, so that always stuck out to me.
It's just so believable and scary.
Right. He carried the title with reverence and believability. He made it feel important, and he was part of why that felt like the world title scene was really strong this year. He was largely transitioned from MJF to Swerve, but I think he made every moment count and delivered some of his career's best work. Kind of like Shelton. Like he was older this year, but like it was some of the best work he's ever done.
I love Joe.
And the last thing worth noting is that he made Hook look like money in that match. It was a random title match that I scoffed at, but one that turned out to be better than it had any right to be. He made Hook look legit, and it came crashing down when Jericho ruined it.
Yeah.
I still think Joe continued to do some good work with Hook and Shibata before he got killed by going through a wall.
Going through a wall. Yeah.
Joe did some of the best work of his career this year, and I feel like it doesn't get enough recognition. I think during this year and a bit of 2023, he really proved himself to be a highly underrated veteran asset for AEW. He may have had some success, but I feel like it's flown under the radar since. And I have high hopes for when he returns because he was pretty much flawless.
He can do I think Mariah May just said he's her favorite, basically. He's incredible at everything.
And it was a welcome surprise.
Yes. I think a lot of people know how good Roddy and Pac are. And Joe, I think, as well, right? But I really feel like there's one guy people are just starting. And it's partly because I was early to this guy because I watched him in TNA, and I would tell you, like, I would get you to watch his stuff in TNA going, look at this guy, like, he's crazy. And he kind of got ignored there too. It's the Beast Mordos. He never wins. He
didn't win in the C2.
Not a match. Has amazing matches every week that have like people in the crowd reacting viscerally, and you can hear it to his moveset.
His moveset's so cool too, because he's just like he's this insane blend of strength and agility for like a super jacked guy,
and then a super base for people to fall onto because he's used to that lucha style, right? So if you want to jump onto him 100 times, he's fine with that.
I'm glad he got that 2 or 3 falls match, the random one with Hologram at Wrestle Dream. Yes, that was good, and that was a cool spotlight for him.
He was underappreciated, like in TNA. I don't understand what they like. Why
when they have the X division, because he's like
perfect.
He's the embodiment of No Limits, if that's their thing, because he can do the flippy stuff they like, but he's a big guy,
250 pounds. So I don't know what they were. Because remember, I was like, the only thing I can think is that he's not officially theirs, and he's
I feel like
loan,
that was the case, yeah.
Because otherwise, he's for a company like TNA not to make him a bigger deal was crazy. But anyways, that trend continues in AEW. He's just that guy that will just keep having awesome matches, and I guess doesn't need to win. But
hopefully him and LFI is going to yield better results, but they haven't done much yet.
I think all the other nominees have had titles and major pay-per-view matches in the past 12 months.
Yeah, major pay-per-view match.
Mordos has had nothing. He just puts, as Sheamus would say, banger after banger and loses. So Mordos, I think people are becoming aware. I hope he gets a little bit more attention in 2025.
True.
Next category we have is...
These are the next 2 are ones I like to talk about as well, for sure.
We're most improved star of the year.
Last year we picked the Guns because we used to hate them and then we love them.
That's right. I love when that happens.
Speaking of hate 'em, love 'em, Jack Perry, I think, got that journey. Ludwig Kaiser is one. Kyle Fletcher, Braun Breaker, and I threw in Jada Parker for you.
Thank you.
I
love
that
Jada
was a good
Parker.
one.
She's improved a lot for sure.
Is it? See, like, I don't know how we forget, but I think we talked about it for some. I think I went first last time, so I think it is you. Yeah, because okay, it is you.
All right.
I don't know what we're doing here.
So I can't believe this, but I'm not giving this award to Kyle Fletcher, despite like he's improved a ton this year. And I actually prefer him to the person I am giving the award to. So that means that, like, I think he deserves it. And that I'm choosing Braun Breaker this year. So his ascension on the main roster has been like meteoric. And I feel like he's kind of met every challenge so far. Really good matches on his way to becoming Intercontinental Champion.
He showed that character range in the Wolf Dogs too. You forget
exactly. That's part of the biggest area he's improved. Is before he was just like really generic power,
but he had some cool
explosive
matches,
guy having decent matches. He ggets a good crowd response with the barking now. He can kind of work, seems like heel or face week to week.
I think, yeah, he's so over that they want to kind of have, because I think they want to have him as a heel, but he's too over, so they kind of walk the line.
Yeah, it's depending on who he's facing is kind of how he goes. So
which gives him more versatility in terms of feuds.
For sure.
He could go either way.
He can go anywhere. So I have been thoroughly impressed with this guy because you and I, neither of us were fans of him when he first.
I was
like, okay, he's there
2.0 for sure.
Because dad, and he looks, and he's explosive.
And he's a football guy.
And he just kept getting better and better.
Absolutely.
And I think this year he got really, really good. So I'll take Braun Breaker.
Honorable mention to Okada because
Okada is improved. That's people right now are like
not anything with wrestling, but I feel like his character work was so much better than I thought it could be, and for him to go from like the serious, like greatest of all time wrestler in New Japan to like having some comedic range, I think that deserves some props.
You know how many people complain about his?
I know.
Presentation in AEW.
I absolutely love it, and we were the people who didn't want him to go to AEW.
We're just kind of like, Okada's cool and all, but like he feels more WWE. I'm fine if he goes there, and that we both really like him.
Yeah, even like I'm enjoying his matches more. I'm just like, I'm happy.
Oh my god, Okada Ospreay at World's End. We'll talk about it. Whew.
I giggle a little time, or even in anticipation of what he'll say sometimes. Back when the Elite were more on TV too. He was always really funny. And then honorable mention of Breaker as well. He was definitely my runner-up. He's up this game as dominant heel, and he showed some more range, and he's just a really great all-rounder. He's a perfect talent for WWE in my eyes.
He is. You're right. He fits perfectly for what they want.
And I think I'm going to do what you didn't, and I'm going to pick Kyle Fletcher. He's closer to breakout star to me, but that one I feel like is tailor-made for someone else.
Yeah.
I do want to give Fletcher his due, though, and so that's what he gets. Why he gets it here. I think he significantly upped his game this year. He's always been stellar in the ring. I think in 2023 he had a couple times to show that against, like, I think he had matches like Omega and Cassidy I remember really liking. Then he won the ROH title, the TV title at the end of the year. He impressed me in those solo outings and after Davis got injured, and I feel for Davis, but his injury is probably the best thing to happen to Kyle Fletcher's career. His in-ring work has managed to get better, I think.
I agree.
As he's muscled up, he's gotten more strength, and he's definitely changed his offense a bit, but it's still that fast,
Oh yeah,
intense, hard-hitting style that I really like. Super crisp, absolutely. He went toe-to-toe with both MJF and Ospreay and delivered. He was really good as a babyface against Ultimate American MJF. Remember, we're saying he's the Australian foreigner, and he's getting these great babyface reactions against the Ultimate American, right?
Yes.
So that was really great, and I think he got even better with his promos and character work when he turned heel on Ospreay. He is so perfect as like the cocky young star who's like the future, right?
That feud made that kid.
That absolutely made him. The promos against Ospreay, who's one of the strongest in EW, I think.
And then beating Ospreay.
And that promos were great. And then he beat Ospreay. He used to be a guy kind of like a Mordos-ish role where he would drop banger after banger whenever you wanted it, but he would just lose.
Yes.
But now he's like putting on bangers. He's getting huge wins. He's cutting great promos. I think,
and he looks like a star. It
looks
sucks
like
to
a
say
star.
Like putting on 30 pounds of muscle, but that's how that.
I think
even
I didn't like
man.
it at first, but the trunks and the buzz cut is a solid look for him as
like
well.
A star.
Like Orton.
Yeah, he's very Orton-y.
I think having Callis with him is great too, because Callis is a really good heel manager, and so he's really like, we've been saying it for a while now. They realize what they have, and he's become kind of an all-rounder this year. He's incredibly talented, and that's something we've seen develop all year.
Friend of the podcast as well.
Yeah, I
he might not know that, but
I love Fletcher. He is fantastic. So he gets it for me.
He does.
Sure.
He's great. Next, slightly different, but along the same lines, we're looking at Breakout Star of the Year.
So not necessarily improving your skill, but like breaking out in terms of card placement and how you're seen, I guess, perception. Yes. Last year we both picked Swerve Strickland. I forgot to mention the last one. Oh, no, I did mention the guns. Okay, never mind. I wasn't sure if I got it or not. So some similar entrants here. We have Jack Perry, Mariah May, Kyle Fletcher, Obafemi, Braun Breaker, Shelton Benjamin, and Joe Hendricks. So TNA.
I snuck him in there.
It's getting in here a little bit. I think Perry and Oba broke out. Perry went from, as I should have touched on them and improved, but he went from like our least favorite heel in 2023 to a really strong one this year, I think. I think it kind of petered out when he had the TNT title run. It was like less prominent, but a lot of his work I know we really like this year.
And now that the Elite are just done, seems like he's kind of adrift.
I know we liked a lot of his stuff still.
We did.
And Oba, I like to say he proved me wrong. I didn't think he was much more than another generic big muscle guy from NIL, but he grew into a genuine talent, and his title run really helped him break out, and he literally won the breakout tournament. So, I mean...
And I think he might be in this category next year if he has the year. I think, you know what I mean? If he has the 2025, I think he might. He might be in this category
He's
again.
Probably my runner-up, and I did want to give a shout out to Shelton, because he didn't deserve most improved because he's always been good, but just the opportunities he got this year really allowed him to show how good he is, and at pushing 50, he was fantastic.
Yep.
He blew me away, and it's a career high. This late in his life, which
fantastic.
Is crazy. It was a really strong category this year, which is nice to see. My run-up is for sure Fletcher. He won the ROH title late last year, I guess in 2023 now. And that was the beginning of him distinguishing himself from Aussie Open when Davis was injured. He beefed up, changed his look, and he had an all-timer win and feud against Ospreay. Like you said, that made him, and that was just genuinely made me happy to see. I feel though most of the year he was turning us out TV matches. I feel like it took a while for his breakout to come, right? And it didn't. To me, he didn't break out as high as my winner, Mariah May. She debuted at the end of 2023, and we started the year with her in-ring debut. I remember we were both kind of worried, but she blew us away.
Heard she's good, but I don't know anything about her.
She impressed us from the first match, right? It was something we had no idea about, but she impressed us from the first match.
Force and
she's more explosive than a lot of the roster. She's different in the ring thanks to Stardom exploits. More importantly, I think her arc with Toni Storm showed how talented she is out of the ring as a character. Easily my favorite part of the Toni Storm character. She played the obsessed fan and like lackey brilliantly. She looked perfect as the Storm double. That was always really funny. And last and best of all, she was amazing as a psychotic, ambitious villain, doing anything to get to the top, as it's the only thing she cared about, right? Her impeccable work in ring and out brought her to the point where she was undeniably deserving of being the champion less than a year into her run. Where you have like Monet is coming in as like the hot big star, and she's going to the mid-card title. May, less than a year, she's here, and she's winning the title. She won the Owen, and it was like, no question she's the one, right?
We might have dropped the ball by not including the heel turn-in segment of the year. the attack with the shoe.
That's true.
Was fantastic.
That does deserve an honorable mention then.
But it deserves being
mentioned. Do a late honorable mention then.
It was fantastic.
But to me, how she went from being someone we didn't know to world champion in a year shows me like how she really broke out. Like she just she had the main storyline. She was pretty much thrust into the top like the main event scene from the get-go because she was adjacent to the champion, right?
It was like they kept giving her more to do, and we kept kind of waiting to see her kind of be like, okay, well, we found her ceiling.
No,
and
she's
like,
just great.
Awesome, everything.
Yeah, and so I think getting the top title that soon really is a breakout for me, and to be this good at 25 is incredible.
Yep. The more they asked, it was like, okay, now do a different thing and do this on a bigger scale, and she just kept crushing everything. Great. So great choice for you. I could have gone with Breaker or May here, I think. Both really deserving.
I'm glad you're giving my boy some flowers.
I am. And I was just like I was saying, I think Femi's year might be next year, but we'll see. I am taking Kyle Fletcher for this, mostly for his emergence of his character work and promo skills. He's always been really good in the ring, but we already talked about, he transformed his physique. He was given more to say, given more high-profile feuds to be into, and he continued to impress me with his ability kind of to tell stories this year, because we knew he was a good worker, right? Mm-hmm. But clearly AEW noticed the same thing. They've elevated him quickly over the last probably half of this year, right? He'll be a main champion in, I would say, the next 18 months. I wanted to say a year, but I gave myself a little more time than that. So
I think at the very least he gets one of the mid-card titles and just runs with it.
And I think they realized that this is a breakout star too. I think AEW would agree, like, oh damn.
Yeah, you don't give him like a dominant clean win over Ospreay like that without like having some plan.
We were forced to put this guy in a singles position, and he has just absolutely crushed it. So it is Kyle Fletcher for me.
Fletcher is fantastic. Then we go to Best Feud, one of my favorites as well.
Yes.
Last year, we both picked Blackpool versus the Elite. That was a great one. Partially because it stemmed from the greatest feud in AEW history, probably. Like it's either Hangman Omega or something coming up.
Yeah.
But so I will rhyme off the nominees
Do
now. We got Swerve Ospreay, Swerve Danielson, MJF Ospreay, Hangman Swerve, Hangman Switchblade, Ospreay Fletcher, Punk McIntyre, Bloodline. That seems weird. I don't think
I just threw it in there because people love it. I threw it in for best and worst.
I was like, I don't think I put it there.
You did not.
I think it's
for a time it was really good.
It was.
And then
so I find if I still like it's not a category I would say he ran away with, but Ospreay's still here 3 times. Like
Swerve, my boy.
Hangman's here twice. Swerve's here 3 times. That's kind of crazy.
We like what we like, you know. Is it me?
It is you.
So I feel like I'm giving WWE a bit more love than most years this year because
I think
it's
earned.
Improved sure once a certain person.
We're not unreasonable.
Once a certain person was eliminated from the process.
We're not unreasonable. I'm giving them some credit here and there.
And you know how I feel about CM Punk, but I thought the Punk Drew feud was awesome. It was a pretty close second here.
I didn't write in my notes, but I do want to mention that too because especially Drew for me was a highlight.
So good.
And just even for the final match alone, I think it deserves some credit because that was a really good match. And for a main roster match for me to like it that much is something.
That was my main roster match of the year.
If that was a category, absolutely.
Yes. Maybe it needs to be. So we have to force ourselves to give them credit. But yeah, both guys cut amazing promos, but Drew really came into his own as a.
I think maybe we should put him as breakout. Now that I think about it.
Honestly.
Would like honorable mention to Drew McIntyre. I like how we're doing this. Like it's despite how prepared we've been, it seems like
thing, living.
So I do want to say McIntyre deserves some credit there too because he one of my best returns. Like
he became one of the most possibly the best talker in the company
to the point where I was begging for him to win the title, and he did, but then they screwed him, which I thought was stupid. But
and say what you will about Punk, the way I feel about him. When you put a guy out there who's just, in my opinion, telling the truth, it's so fun to root against Punk, right? Like
that is, even though we're not supposed to, it is fun.
So I thought it was the best that WWE had to offer. That being said, I had to give this to Swerve and Hangman.
There's really only one choice.
So many memorable moments. We talked about already the burning of the house, everything leading up to that, everything after that. And again, we've talked about it. These are 2 guys still in their prime, right? So if they both stay with this company, this can be lingering for years and years.
And I'd argue Hangman's for sure a homegrown star. I would argue a similar thing for Swerve because WWE never really grew him as a star.
No.
So I would argue Swerve
even though he made an amazing faction out of nothing, and they
with
killed
Top
it.
Dollar.
It was so cool. Remember how
and
cool
Adonis.
that was?
And Adonis. They were awesome. But
They were awesome.
I think AEW are the ones who really made him. And so I think both of them are kind of their guys.
This was not a hard one for me to pick. That's
No,
the feud of the year for me.
sure. You mentioned Punk and Drew, and so there's a couple I'd like to mention. I would like to mention Ospreay and Fletcher. We talked about it a bit already, but the turn was well done. And worth noting, the explanation was great for Fletcher.
Yes,
like his reasoning and everything he said in those follow-ups made perfect sense, which hasn't always been the case in some regards. So I like Cole and Drew.
That basically you took me under your wing to limit me, to only get me to a certain point.
And the fact that he was, I don't want to be compared to you, and you turned on Okada and like, I'm just doing the same thing.
And the everything he said made sense. Ended up working out, I think. People at first were like, I think it worked.
So. And the match at Full Gear was phenomenal. That was more than delivered for me. And so obviously the matches are part of these feuds, and I thought that feud was phenomenal the whole time. And I wrote that even before we got the World's End match, which was also fantastic. And then one more mention to Hangman Switchblade. That feud kind of came out of accident, I think, because Switchblade got injured in the Owen tournament, right, in the Hangman match.
Mm-hmm.
And they've always just had this simple grudge, but it really works for me. Their promos are always great because they both have their styles and they work so well together, especially. And I wouldn't have thought this, but like, with the roles reversed from what I would have thought a few years back.
Which means maybe there's an even better match. This is another feud that they can keep going forever if they want to.
And that's to say, like, there's a better match in there, which I would be surprised because I thought their two matches were amazing.
Undeniable.
Their chemistry's off the charts. And I just kind of like that Switchblade always has his number. Like, the one win Hangman got is tainted, so it's like it doesn't even really count, and Switchblade doesn't really even count.
Look at how people loved Raven Tommy Dreamer, right?
Exactly.
Because Tommy can never, ever, ever win.
Until Raven left, right? So, like, that works sometimes. I like that here. And I'm always happy to see them work together. Hangman had better this year, though, because, of course, it's going to be Hangman and Swerve.
Yes, it is.
It was a foregone conclusion. The only thing keeping them kind of out of the running was the fact that their feud, like them feuding earlier in the year, was with Samoa Joe involved as well. But then it was mostly Hangman carrying the load as he was obsessively trying to get revenge on Swerve while Swerve was focusing as champion doing other stuff, right? Hangman was kind of tailing behind trying to get title shots, right? Once All In went down, Swerve lost the title as well as Hangman trying to get involved. They were finally back. We were finally back to these two properly feuding. Then in 2 weeks, they topped most other feuds this year. Because they had like 1-2 segments, right? There was the face-to-face in the ring, and then the house got burnt.
Right.
Their in-ring segment was great, and obviously we talked about the burning house in great detail already.
It'll be the thumbnail.
It will be. The matches delivered too. A quality effort on Dynamite. The three-way with Joe was really great, and the cage match was just jaw-dropping, violent, and so disturbing.
Good. Yes.
Like, I'll never forget the reaction we had when Hangman's putting the needle in his mouth, and we're both just like I didn't know how to feel. Like, it was crazy.
I remember going to Mike's garage and describing stuff and they're like, "What are you watching?" Right? Because when you say wrestling to people like that, they just
think WWE and it's like this fake stuff. But so
what are you watching, basically?
That's one of those times where it's definitely weird to be a wrestling fan if like someone were to walk in.
I remember the previous one too. He's literally drinking his blood and
spitting it out and like getting stapled in the face, and it's like, oh man. It's not over, and I don't want it to be because it was easily the best feud of this year. They'll come back to it at some point.
Oh,
they
for
have
sure
to.
will.
These guys are like, this is like their Ciampa Gargano.
Yeah.
Or I can't think of another comparison, but like this is gonna be their
Hogan Andre.
Sure. I'm surprised you went there, but all right. This will be like the feud that defines their careers, the one that they can always go back to. It has
Omega Okada, better?
Omega Okada, sure. Omega Hangman.
Yeah.
It has the potential to go down as one of the best feuds in wrestling history, so it's a no-brainer.
Yep.
Like, it
was an easy choice.
It's a era-defining feud.
Some categories are easier than others. And this one, I don't remember. Oh, no, this one I struggled with, and I think I have an original choice. So
yours is interesting, actually.
It is best storyline of the year.
Mm-hmm. So last year we picked Orange Cassidy's international title run, which is a personal favorite.
You can see we agreed on a lot last year. I think we're going different, which is
a little bit, yeah. Well, because some of them are too clear to disagree.
And there's others. It's just there's lots of worthy people, which is always great.
I like that. We had Ospreay's Tiger Driver dilemma after the Danielson match. That was always kind of cool. Danielson's final countdown, which I would like to say is a good runner-up for me. Judgment Day Saga, the Liv Morgan Revenge Tour.
I really enjoyed that.
That one was really good, but then it kind of fell off. They kind of fell off.
Absolutely
so
has.
It,
So
that one's kind of a tough
one
one to pick.
That's why I'm specifically referring to that.
So then that's fair. That's fair.
Section of it.
The Death Riders take over. The New Day split and Fraxium. Can they coexist? Did you ever think you'd see the words "can they coexist" in a positive light?
Correct.
That's interesting. It is me this time, right?
I think so.
Yeah. What?
It is, because you just went last.
What are we? I don't know why.
What are we even doing here?
What are we doing?
What would you say you do here?
It was kind of a tough one, as I didn't feel like there were a lot of strong contenders at first. Thankfully, we kind of got better as we went on. The Judgment Day feud was really the storyline was really good for a time. And much like the Primates of the Bloodline, it took a bit for sure.
Yep.
And then it kind of petered out unsatisfyingly, as we're still getting Rhea versus Morgan on Raw, and like Balor and Priest are still like,
we're stuck in.
How have we looped back?
We're stuck in a loop.
But the Liv Morgan stuff, and I don't even like her that much, but her work manipulating Dom and everything, like, she deserves credit for that.
Everyone in Judgment Day gets a shot at being the leader, and then it implodes, and they just keep going until there's nobody left.
Carlito's just leading it with he's like
with one other person.
He just recruits the LWO.
Right.
That could be a candidate for worst faction, because people complain about how directionless and pointless they are.
They really are.
Well, I guess you would know, actually.
They are very directionless.
It was good, but I didn't watch Raw a lot. I do want to shout out for Axiom too. I really love them, but I mostly just watch their matches.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wrote this in November, and I guess it still works now. The second Moxa came back in the wake of All In, we were intrigued to see what his angle was. He came back with a little bit of a different look. He had his New Japan theme. He suddenly had Marina Shafir, which we were concerned about at first.
We were. Of all people.
Yeah, we were like, of all people, you picked the one that can't wrestle, but I stand corrected. He was mysteriously after Darby Allin. He seemed disjointed from Blackpool, and then All Out transpired, which was also, like, if we could do moment of the year, that them suffocating Danielson with a bag is probably one of the craziest things to ever happen. Some people hated that just because, like, they're like,
too far.
If Danielson okayed it, dude, I'm
not
gonna judge. The Death Riders were born.
It's a TV show. How many TV shows have murder and whatever, human trafficking and horrible stuff?
Right.
We're watching a TV show.
Right.
I don't know why wrestling, sorry, I'm ranting a little, why it gets held to this different standard.
Or it gets viewed differently because it's fake.
People act like the people watching it don't know it's fake, right? That, because you guys think it's real, this is horrible stuff. It's a TV show,
You're supposed to suspend your disbelief. That's saying, like,
This is how TV works.
You know, when you showed me that lightsaber duel, right? Star Wars is fake, right?
Right.
Laser swords aren't real, right? You know that, right?
That's when people find out I'm a wrestling fan, and they say, "You know it's fake, right?" And I say, "Well, hey, what's your favorite show?" And they'll be like, "Breaking Bad." You know it's fake, right?
He's not actually a drug dealer.
It's exactly the same thing.
It's just like, it's just a show that's on weekly all year, and it's just their actors more physically.
We are preaching to the choir. Anyone
preaching to the choir.
To us knows this.
If you're here, you know. Then over the ensuing weeks, I think we got a lot of fantastic vignettes with them that gave us some good explanations in the early going. It left us in the dark enough to keep us on the edge. Everyone's character work was stellar. Mox was a great ringleader and doing what he felt was necessary to fix AEW. A lot of credit goes to Claudio. Yeah, surprisingly,
he's been great.
Someone I didn't think we'd get good character work from. I thought Claudio and Yuta together were great.
Mm-hmm.
Their big brother, little brother dynamic was awesome. Shafir was a great silent heater, as I already touched on, and Pac is awesome. I thought Yuta was really cool, getting kept in the dark as he was initially against them, right? And then like that, I liked how that kind of shifted. After Mox won the title, things kicked up a notch. I thought the feud with Cassidy was good. And I do enjoy like the 4-way title storyline heading into World's End. I think it breathed some fresh air into Dynamite. It wasn't always the best, I think, for you especially, but I think generally speaking, it was a big positive, and I really enjoyed it still.
Yeah, we differ on that opinion for sure. That's one of our most. I don't hate it, but it's nowhere.
I think it's just how it's somewhat fallen for
like
you.
If it was
still started good.
If it weren't even in the nominations, I would have batted an eye at it.
That's fair.
But but I did enjoy Ospreay's Tiger Driver dilemma, Danielson's final countdown, obviously, but they're kind of like short-lived.
They were a bit.
The Liv one was really good, but like you said, it kind of regressed, and now it's just kind of there. So for me, once I thought about this one, and I'm like, the storyline that's provided me the most enjoyment for the longest time this year, because it's been going on for a long time, is the lengthy issues with the tag team of Fraser and Axiom, right? Who we lovingly call Fraxium. And I think I remember being like annoyed by it at first, because they were teasing them splitting, and I'm like, they've barely been together. Why would I even? It's kind of like when Camille and Monet, like, why would I even
Except they
care?
actually did it with that,
right?
And now it's like, is Camille even going to come back? I don't know.
So I don't know if she might be gone for good. But then it was kind of like, are they just teasing this split? And then I don't know. I didn't think it had a lot of legs, but I was wrong. They found a way to have these two continuously miscommunicate, right? And also like pursue singles careers while they just keep winning as a tag team and keep hitting each other in the middle of matches by accident, and you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And now it's been so long that it's just like,
it might not.
There is no other shoe to drop maybe, and this is just two guys and this is how they exist.
And that could also
really
be a genius thing where now it's like been so long you'd think, oh, it's just not gonna happen. That's when they throw it at you, maybe.
Exactly. So I don't really know where it stands, but I love that. I look forward to their matches, not just because they're awesome in ring, because they are, but they're telling a story in the match every time between the two of them, and it works, right? So really fresh and interesting way to do this with two guys. At first, I was like, oh, they're just sticking small, fast guys together. They'll be really fun, and they are. But I'm thrilled to give a year-end award to anything from NXT, right? Because I just want that show to be good.
Yeah.
And in this case, I think Fraxium are deserving as someone who watched them all year.
I really wish we could have had them in prime NXT.
Right. Oh my God, the matchups they could have. Right?
Them versus Undisputed Era would have been legendary.
And it's this thing like they're not necessarily on the same page, but they just keep winning anyways because they're just that good, right? And then when
they do get on the same page, they're like
unstoppable.
They're killer, yeah.
Right. So love the story, and it continues
for sure.
into 2025. Next we have
big stories.
Now this is biggest, not best. So it is the biggest wrestling story in real life.
Biggest, most interesting, most notable, whatever.
Yes.
Last year,
not best.
You took Punk getting fired from AEW, and I took Bray Wyatt's death.
Yes.
This year we have the Vince McMahon, Janelle Grant legal document and case
that you read all of.
That I read the majority of that. Yeah. TNA firing Scott D'Amore, which is a pretty early one.
Yep.
Lucha Bros going to WWE. Raw going to Netflix. Alex Coughlin retiring due to his neck issues, and the Ricky Stark saga.
I added that one in there too. I feel like it's gotten a lot of traction.
That's fair. This is you.
So as a viewer of TNA, for sure the D'Amore firing was a big deal because we just he seemed kind of beloved there, and was like a
he
steady
seemed like
hand.
He was bringing them to prominence, or like he really cared, and like he was trying to do stuff.
But
Anthem just weren't having it.
To zoom out to the larger wrestling landscape, it can't win, right? It has to be, unfortunately, the terrible story that easily wins here. It's the Vince McMahon debacle. It's not close. He is almost, I'll choose my words carefully to avoid any lawsuits. He is almost definitely the monster we thought that he was, right? And to me, the entire corporate structure was put under suspicion from this by the terrifying details of this case and how brazen apparently things seem to be. And for all of these people to act like they didn't know what was going on, I find somewhat hard to believe. But hopefully Vince suffers and faces consequences. Even any of this is really proven to be true. Even a shred of it, right, is enough for him to be. But the way things are going in this area right now, I don't have any faith that billionaires will face consequences.
Yeah.
So
especially with certain political
events. Really just want a positive story to take this spot in 2025, because this one was
I don't think
terrible.
That's how the news is going to work.
No,
you know
probably
what I mean?
not.
Like,
not wrestling
actually,
news,
unless it's Punk getting fired, that one's pretty positive.
If you want positive news stories, maybe don't pick wrestling as your hobby.
That's fair. I was close to taking the Raw move to Netflix because that's pretty unprecedented.
That is huge.
I never thought I'd see the day where they not only moved off of network TV but onto a streaming platform that wasn't their own.
That I already pay for.
That we already pay for.
How amazing!
Like the takeover thing, dude. I might watch takeover later.
Right?
Like I'm gonna start doing that just because I can.
I'll second screen that.
Yeah. Like I can't pick it. The only reason I don't is because Vince is a monster. The ongoings of the Janelle Grant. No. I don't even need to do that.
We're not scared.
Ongoings of the Janelle Grant case and the release of the actual court documents were astonishing. As I read more and more, it became one of the most shocking and horrifying things I'd ever seen. The things discussed in there are legitimately insane. It's unfathomable that they're the actions of a real human being. Purely off of the shock and disgust. Okay,
human being?
Yeah, a living
human
person.
Being?
Yeah,
using the term loosely.
Purely off of the shock and disgust I felt when looking at this over. I can't see a reason to pick anything else.
No,
it was the most notable thing to me, and its ramifications are still underway and unknown.
Correct. Next, we move into an individual award. This
is a fun one,
and it's interesting because I thought the same person would pretty much run this category most years, but he's not, and it is best on the mic.
Mm-hmm. Last year we both picked Christian Cage. He is still here, but he's joined by Samoan Joseph, Will Ospreay, Drew McIntyre, Willow Nightingale, good for her.
Yes,
Mark
she's awesome.
Briscoe, Pac, Switchblade, Jay White, and MJF.
I'll bet you nobody else has Pac or Switchblade on their ballots.
People are sleeping on them, dude.
We enjoy what we enjoy.
So many honorable mentions I like to have, just because there's so many people I love to hear speak.
There are.
The ones I'd mainly like to shout out are Pac and Switchblade, just because they have their own styles that I just love so much. Just like Pac, his diction and word choice is so interesting to me. Like his British, just everything about that is just so interesting to me. And like a lot of his promos sound similar, but they're all so different. It's just it never gets old for me. Switchblade, just I don't even know how to describe his style, but I think he's fantastic.
Yeah, he's good.
And he can sell any feud to me. Briscoe, I would like to mention because he's 100% his own style too, and he's just enjoyable as hell. Like
he had
the
a big year on the
conglomeration
mic.
promos were just like he was so good and enjoyable that I think they gave him dedicated time every week.
100% was not the plan.
Man, I loved that to pieces.
He was cracking up the people that are with him in the segment. Right?
Yeah, like I don't know how you can't love him. So that was great. And biggest shout out to Samoa Joe, because like I said earlier, he was virtually flawless this year.
Samoa Joe will make you feel how you're supposed to feel.
And
right? He's that good.
MJF is probably going to permanently be in this category.
That's what I'm saying. That's the guy that I just assumed, but he didn't win it last year for us even.
No.
So I forgot about that.
It's still a really hard pick, and I think it could flip between a few people, but I think I've reached a verdict. I'm going to pick Ospreay. He's the best in the world right now, and that extends to his mic work, I think. He's great as a heel when he made his appearances before getting signed, but he's been a babyface since he signed with AEW, and he's been surprisingly good as a face, even though I knew how great he was in general. Like some of my favorite promo guys in AEW, he has his own tone and way about him. He's got this unique kind of British rasp, and he's got some unique charisma. He feels real. He always does a good job like putting his opponent over in some sort of way, which is a compliment we always gave Moxley. Yes. And like if it's necessary and he feels real, he'll discuss his autism or mental issues like legitimately. Mm-hmm. He can convey internal conflict really well, like when he was doing the Tiger Driver thing, or I think his promo work against Fletcher when it's like his best friend has turned on him. Yep. That was really good too. He's so good at switching between being like light and happy and like humorous to being like serious and focused whenever needed. He also finds a way to like sometimes like when Fletcher bragging about his accomplishments, but not feeling like snooty and like heelish about it. Yeah, like feeling like proud and like respectful. So like, just he's a perfect main event player. He's got every facet of the game down. He's one of the guys like Mox where I'd trust him to sell a match in a single week if he had to.
He is fantastic, and it's people that think he's just a spot monkey in the ring.
And I think
whatever,
a babyface.
They're not watching him.
Babyface speaker's more impressive than because like Christian's hilarious, but like you know what I mean.
It's hard to be a good babyface. So MJF is usually a shoe-in for this award, but he seemed to have gone a bunch. He was gone a bunch this year, I think, then involved in a feud that has dragged him down and everybody involved.
I will say, even the feud was bad, he was easily the best part on the mic. Correct. And he was still great. So
I do miss Joe because I feel like he is the realist, and whatever he's saying, you just believe it automatically.
Yeah.
And Ospreay's proven that he can be the guy in every aspect, including this. But my choice, I'm going WWE for this one. I talked about him earlier. It's Drew McIntyre. As somebody who wasn't regularly watching WWE at that time, I started watching Raw all the time. His promos were part of what got me to check out the product regularly. I wanted to see
he was the one I kept
fire, and I kept saying to you, like, dude, you got to check out Drew's promo this week. Like, he's just roasting CM Punk, and it all feels true to me, right? And again, I'm obviously biased against Punk, but it felt like Drew was just spitting the truth every week, and his delivery was brilliant, and he just was this like, I'm a big badass heel who speaks the truth from my perspective, and what are you going to do about it, right? And that, it's crazy because I've never thought he was super good on the mic. He just exploded this year.
Yeah.
And week after week after week, it was so simple, but so good. I thought he crushed it, so he earned this award for me.
Good one.
All right. Next, we have best character.
Last year, that was also Christian.
Yep.
He's still here. We also threw in Jack Perry. McIntyre's back. Okada's here. And Jeff, we put Wolf Dogs and Hangman Page.
Wolf Dogs is an interesting choice.
It is. I mean, it was good.
Yeah, it was good.
This is you.
It's me. So I absolutely love Hangman as an unhinged heel. Some of his facial expressions, or lack thereof, I guess, are just amazing. And I do think Perry is much better as a heel than I thought he would be. But neither of those two had the staying power throughout the whole year. So
I think Hangman did.
I'm doubling down here on Drew McIntyre. He was, again, for me, the most consistently entertaining character on weekly TV that I was watching, and he was around a lot. Again, super simple, a big pissed off heel who basically tells the truth and dares people to do anything about it. His promos were fantastic, just completely believable, and just now he's just entrenched in the top tier, right? As a heel right now. He can say anything he wants to anyone on the roster, and it's fine at this point, right? So I tuned into shows on Raw for several weeks, mostly because of what that guy was going to say next. So again, such a simple, basic character, but just performed the hell out of it. So it's Drew for me on this one as well.
Honorable mention is Scapegoat for reinventing himself and becoming genuinely intriguing and cool since his return, and McIntyre for being right. And I enjoy Okada again.
Yes.
I had to say it. I feel like early in the year I may have leaned towards perhaps McIntyre, maybe Perry, but I think since he came back, Hangman as a heel has been incredible. His character now stands as, I think, one of the most interesting and complex ones in AEW, and maybe wrestling as a whole. You compare who he was in early AEW in his arc with the Elite to now, and they're both the same person and completely different people. It's crazy to me. And he was such a good babyface as being like the anxious, self-doubting.
He is the best at being complicated.
Yeah, like,
right?
Because his complicated work as a babyface is so great. Like, he would always be like this self-conscious, like
anxious
doubtful,
millennial
cowboy, right? And he was so good at that to the point where I was like, I don't know if I want him to turn heel because he was so good at that, but he's like just as good as, if not better, as being this obsessed, like insanely mad heel. His revenge obsessed descent into madness this year has been captivating to watch. I initially didn't want him to turn heel, but like he's just done so good that I had no choice but to acknowledge it's amazing.
It is,
and it was a good move for him. I think it revitalized his career a bit because maybe he would have gotten sale. I don't know, but this definitely changed him up, and it was great. The quality of even just his initial work as a heel when he was kind of doing the slow burn were enough to convince me this would be a good route to take. Right. It showed his range. Every obsessed promo was done fantastically, and some of his word choice was great. When he ran about Swerve not winning their Dynamite match, when they went to the timeline, he was like, "You didn't win, you don't get the title shot." He was like, how insane he looked at that point was so good.
Just unhinged. They love that word, and I feel like he pulls it off.
He encapsulates that look perfectly.
Yes.
The lengths he would go to get at Swerve were captivating. He tapped quick to Joe to end the Revolution match.
Right.
He plowed through the Owen tournament bracket to try to get a title shot. He delayed his Blood and Guts entry just to jump Swerve. And that's the only reason he was even in the match. He entered the gauntlet all in and lost, so he tried to cost Swerve later on. The mustache I didn't like at first, but that even complements the look of the character, and I think it really helped, actually, which is a weird thing to say, but it definitely adds to the presentation. And what's also so fascinating is he becomes this crazy lunatic who burns houses and whatnot, but somehow he managed to feel somewhat realistic because you can understand to an extent why he's become this way, right? He may have become the villain this year, despite how he started, but the best villains are those you can kind of understand and almost empathize with, and he is that, right? Because like you can understand why he's this way.
Crowd, even as this awful heel.
You can understand why he's this way, but it doesn't justify the events that he's caused, right? Hangman's been pitched perfect, and I dare someone to prove he's not. He may be one of the greatest characters in pro wrestling history. Like, he's just, at least that I've seen in my lifetime, because he's fantastic on both sides of the spectrum.
He is. He's another guy that AEW should cling to and just use him forever. Now we look at probably an easy one for both of us. Best weekly TV show. Last year it was what?
Dynamite.
The year before that it was what?
Dynamite.
The year before that?
NXT UK.
Don't think so.
No. Oh right, it's
you. Nominees.
Nominees. It's just Dynamite, NXT, and Raw.
Yep.
In there. And so while it definitely has its fair share of ups and downs, it's always going to be Dynamite for me, I think, unless something really changes the WWE style. NXT and Raw both up their games in recent times, and I think that deserves recognition, no doubt. They're never consistent enough for me to watch on a regular basis, and it's also just not my preferred style of pro wrestling. Dynamite may not be as strong as it once was, and for some weeks this year pretty low for AEW standards, but I thought like also they might have done better than 2023. It's hard to say, but like some standout episodes that I pulled were January 3rd, the first episode I remember we felt really positive about. The September 11th one, which I think was after All Out, I want to say. Grand Slam was a great one. The 5th anniversary show, those all come to mind for me. Plenty of killer matches. Ospreay had plenty. He had the hour-long against MJF. Takeshita had some matches with Swerve and Darby. Strong versus Swerve was one that I mentioned already. Many more like that will likely show up later. It's no surprise the majority of the TV match category belongs to AEW and Dynamite. It's not much of a competition for me, as it's the only show I still watch weekly. So for me, it's a lot harder to make a case for something else.
Yeah, it's true. There was a couple weeks I know where I was like, I think I might have preferred Raw to Dynamite, right?
Yeah, and that's gonna
But
happen.
that was the exception, not the rule. But it was nice to feel good about watching Raw because I want all wrestling to be awesome, obviously. Still, it didn't deliver consistently in ring as my favorite show this year, and that is Dynamite. There were several times where Raw was offering me a couple stories that were better for sure, but the overall product of Dynamite just appeals to the type of wrestling fan I am and that you are, I think, as well, right?
For sure.
Just the talent they have and the infinite combinations of that talent and
some of the stories they had too, right? Like not all of them were bad,
and even just the in-ring style is our preferred style, whatever you want to call it. So, and with 3 hours of Raw coming back, I can't see Dynamite not winning this because the 3 hours is a barrier for me to check out every week.
Sure.
So it's Dynamite again. This one was hard for me because of my memory, and
this one was easy,
missing a bit of notes. But it is best pay-per-view.
So last week we both picked Full Gear, and Full Gear had a couple-year streak. Because I think we picked it in 2022 as well. So that streak was finally broken.
And this is the category where people are like, "Oh, you guys just hate WWE."
It's like I said, I'm gonna throw that in there, but I don't care if I miss a WWE show.
I'll tell you right now,
I never miss an AEW show.
A WWE show on this list, and there just aren't. There's been some great matches. There's been some fine.
But like the shows overall,
they usually peak at like a B. That's about the best for us, right? Maybe not you.
Like for us, even my example would be the best match they had all year, the Hell in a Cell match.
Yeah.
The rest of that show, completely throwaway to me. We didn't even stay for the main event.
WrestleMania had some stuff I really liked.
But last year, I thought Mania was really good. And we did nominate it, I think. But this year just wasn't the case. So they are all AEW here. We have Dynasty, Forbidden Door, All In, All Out, Wrestle Dream, and Full Gear. And so I think that is you first, right? Because you just went last.
Is it me first?
Yeah.
So again, I went back over my notes, and it looked like I really liked All In, Revolution, and Dynasty quite a bit. But as you pointed out, and that was the deciding factor for me, there was, I think, only one that we enjoyed so much that we were like, let's hustle and review it. I want to talk about it before our weekly show. So that was AEW All Out, right? That got us Ospreay Pac, which I loved and was one of my highest rated matches of the year. Willow Statlander, which was
arguably
really,
my
really
favorite
good.
women's match of the year.
And Hangman Swerve, obviously.
Which was
crazy.
The thing that happened.
So
Insane.
3 standouts on that show, and top to bottom, it was really good. I don't think there was anything that was really bad. So I went with All Out this year.
Although the product has been marginally better this year, it's worth noting WWE's not here. AEW shows do have a lot of matches, and WWE has pared down, but I think they've pared down too much and gone too heavy on the ads, right?
And again, yes, that for sure. The amount of actual in-ring time to length of the pay-per-view is less than 50%.
And you were saying it's basically AEW's package match, but that's all you need for me.
It is.
And so for WWE, like, their shows used to be too long, but now it's like they're not even too short, but it's just like, I feel like use the ad time for more matches or more length in your matches. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Their style is not for us.
Exactly. And that's why I don't care if I miss the shows. And I'd like to shout out Forbidden Door because I think it might have been the best of the 3 of those shows, which includes the one we went to.
We were at one that had a pretty good match.
It was all right. I think All Out has to stand as the clear winner, but before the show, I think it was close between Forbidden Door and Dynasty. And All In was really great, an improvement from the 2023 installment. All Out, however, was a show that just seemed determined to show out from the beginning, and it did so. It was a show that I could feel I was really enjoying throughout. Like every match that was great, I could feel myself having a good time with it.
It was fun.
The worst match was 3 stars for us, and not the only one. And 2 near 5-star bangers on our Not Infinite system.
Not Infinite.
With some other super quality stuff in between. It was incredibly difficult to take issue with what we got here. The first 4-match stretch, if you remember, was an incredible run. The main event was something I will remember forever. To briefly run it down for you, the opener for MJF Garcia was really good. Garcia didn't win, but remember he hit him with the power driver after, I think, and it was still a really good match. Remember the Blackpool Bucks tag match was a short build, which was the case for a lot of the show, but the match was really good, I remember. Ospreay Pac blew everyone away and lived up to expectations. The Statlander Willow street fight was fantastic follow-up, and what should have been a dead spot. That was what was really impressive.
Yeah, it came right after Pac and Ospreay.
Came back after one of the best matches of the year, and it was still like also one of the best matches of the year, right? The TBS match was a bit of a lull, but Danielson's Scapegoat was better than I thought it would be, and with a really notable post-match angle like we talked about. And then the main event was absolute insanity in the best way. And to me, the fact that because in 2023, all it was the week after, right? So it was like boom, boom, right? This one was 2 weeks, so it was a little more stretched out, but still really short, right?
Yeah.
And so the fact they pulled out such a great show for me in such a short amount of time is a testament to how good it was for me. I wrote I'd be surprised if another show tops this because it was almost flawless, especially for how quick it turned out. And I don't think something topped it. Like, I thought Wrestle Dream and Full Gear were both really good and had some great matches I liked, but they just don't compare overall.
Yeah, top to bottom, it was the best, I think. Now this will be a surprising one, eh? Best promotion.
This will be a surprising one, yeah. AEW, WWE, and the Euro NXT, as maybe they count as their own,
their own thing.
Debatable.
Just to flesh out the nominees.
Last year we both picked AEW.
Shocking.
Yeah, I'm not even 100% sure which way to go with this category because I think it's clear AEW's my choice in terms of wrestling. In terms of preference, right?
Yeah.
No matter how much the ratings or attendances dwindle, if some of the stories aren't as strong as they are usually, if Dynamite had some bad weeks, the roster wrestling style in AEW is my favorite and is my preference. I think they still have storylines that match WWE's best this year. Hangman Swerve feud immediately comes to mind. Ospreay Fletcher, May Storm's rivalry, and the peak of the Death Riders is also really great. WWE came out swinging this year, though. I definitely feel like their storytelling leveled up for the first time since the Bloodline jumped the shark.
Mm-hmm.
The Bloodline saga isn't great to me this year, but I think McIntyre Punk was really good. Parts of the Judgment Day storyline and the New Day turn was great, and the initial Wyatt stuff was really strong as well.
It was.
And if you want to throw in NXT, Fraxium was really good, and yeah. There are all stories WWE told this year that deserve praise and that I enjoyed, at least in parts, which is more than some other years, right? They just don't have the matches. I love the style. It's true dramatic and has too many spaces where it lacks action. Aside from Punk, McIntyre, and Hell in a Cell, I struggle to think of matches from WWE that wow me like the newness from AEW. Unless you want to include NXT. Like, the Iron Survivor match was really strong. Obafemi had a couple of really cool matches like that one with Dijak and Briggs.
Yes.
And then Fraxium, obviously. A couple solid women's ones as well. Something has to be said for W's ticket success, though, and success overseas. AEW is my preferred company, like I said, and one more point for them would be the pay-per-views because I love them more, but I'm going to be fair and give this to WWE because they've really improved from being just the absolute pits, and I just did not care to where, like, there was some stuff I liked this year, and their success, they've been rolling from strength to strength, and so I do have to give them some deserved praise, I think.
Yes.
And so I'm going to pick them just objectively speaking.
You're
AEW is my
WWE?
preference. Yeah.
Wow.
But I think WWE just, their work this year, they've generally improved, and so I think that is
wow.
I'm going to give them kudos for that.
Good for you. It was closer for me than any other year in our podcast history, for sure.
I don't feel overly happy about doing it, but I'm trying to be objective.
I think AEW had a bit of a down year by most accounts, and WWE, like, kind of a banner year and a resurgence for them. The difference for me is, like, when I really think about it, I prefer the AEW TV and I prefer AEW pay-per-views. So how I struggle to go, so the in-ring is the big thing for me, right?
Yeah, that's my main sticking point for sure.
Yes, and that is evident from one promotion to the other. I think WWE may have them in terms of storytelling and storylines this year, but in-ring action week to week, especially on pay-per-views, pales in comparison to AEW. So I stuck with AEW, but I get what you're saying, and it's definitely the smallest gap that I've had.
Biggest upset of the year.
Making this decision, for sure. All right, so let's get into
favorite part.
Some matches here. Best TV match. Is that oh no, it's not new. We did it last year.
We always do that because it's so broad, especially it's mainly a Dynamite category.
And there is some WWE on this.
Yeah, those are my picks too.
Nice. There's so many matches, my God.
Yeah, that's why we split them into specific parts. Because if you want to just pick best match of the year, dude, we're screwed.
Yeah.
Last year we both picked Bullet Club Gold versus FTR from Collision on July 15th.
Yep.
That was the hour-long Truth or Falls match,
awesome.
Which was amazing.
It was.
Nominees for this category. It is Takeshita Darby from Dynamite on January 3rd.
Yep.
Ospreay Fletcher from Dynamite on March 6th. DIY versus British Strong Style pre-New Catch from SmackDown on February 9th. Swerve Takeshita Dynamite March 27th. Ospreay MJF the hour-long from Dynamite 250. DIY versus Street Profits, SmackDown August 16th. Ospreay Fletcher versus the Bucks from Dynamite Grand Slam. Okada Danielson from Dynamite's 5-year anniversary. Ospreay Darby in the Continental Classic from Dynamite Holiday Bash. And most recently, Ospreay Brody King from Dynamite on 34th Street, which was like a week ago.
Mm-hmm. Barely made it under the deadline.
Yeah.
You're first, I think.
No, I think because you went last on the last one.
Did I?
Yeah.
No. So
Egypt.
Even though it was back in January, Takeshita Darby sprung to my memory just
I
because
really love that one.
It was Takeshita just killing Darby Allin.
I love that one, absolutely.
And then the C2 obviously brought us some really high quality TV matches.
Honorable mention to
kind of bookending the year. Ospreay King was amazing, and Takeshita Darby was amazing.
Honorable mention to I guess the first and last Dynamites, right? That's good. Honorable mention though to Brody King and Commander on Rampage.
Awesome.
Because that was really good, and I had never expected it to be that enjoyable. So I do want to shout that one out.
But this category was not hard for me to decide because there was a ridiculous pay-per-view quality opener.
It was better than their match they had on pay-per-view.
Opener / half a show on Dynamite mid-July. That was MJF Will Ospreay. So I actually copy and pasted my thoughts at the time from that because I went back and checked. So I said, fantastic match with a finish that I definitely was not expecting, which was what?
Wasn't it the
refresh my memory?
MJF, I think he hit him with the ring or something, because remember MJF won and we were surprised.
Yeah, that's right. Pay-per-view quality matchup between a world-class heel and babyface. MJF looked great while in control. With heel shenanigans and limb targeting, Ospreay sold well, played the resilient babyface well too. Not only does Ospreay deliver offense perfectly, I think he also makes his opponent's offense look great too. MJF stuff looked great throughout this, and he deserves a lot of credit here too. I like the early introduction of the table and the multiple teases it was used
before they got the spot.
Before they actually did. Awesome hour-long TV match.
On the opposite end of the spectrum, honorable mention to Dunn and Bate versus DIY. That was like a really quick and short match, but I really enjoyed it because it felt like prime NXT to me and something we could have gotten back in those days.
Yep.
I just really enjoyed it as a main roster thing. Really rare that it was a match too. And it was one of the only great things Dunn got to do this year as well, and they were pre-new catch. Honorable mention to Swerve Takeshita, a dream match of sorts for me, and that was great in execution, and Takeshita Darby was also awesome. There are a lot of great ones this year, and surprisingly a couple from WWE's side of the fence. Takeshita's matches with Swerve and Darby were memorably enjoyable. Ospreay's first Dynamite match signed against Fletcher was great as well. He ended the year with a couple of great ones with Darby and Brody King. But I feel like the category belongs to one match, and that is, I'm going to agree with you, it's Ospreay and MJF. It's very clear. It was a surprisingly near hour-long epic. I didn't expect it to go that long, but I enjoyed it the whole way. Hour-long matches are tough to do without it feeling like a slog, and they've only done it a few times on Dynamite. I remember Hangman Danielson pulled it off.
Yep.
And Hangman and Omega was like half an hour, I think. But this match was fantastic, and it was worthy of being on any pay-per-view card AEW had this year. And I would say it was better than their match at All In, for sure. In-ring storytelling was on great display with MJF going for Ospreay's arm, later his knee. A lot of big time moves that were killer looking. They built the spots really well, like the table spot, like you said. The finish was done too. I have it written actually. The time limit was about to expire. He hesitated on the Tiger Driver. It cost him, and then MJF hit his ring shot. It was timed perfectly with like 2 seconds remaining.
Right.
An absolute epic between two of the best in the world, all for free. So it's worthwhile for anyone who likes pro wrestling.
That's right. I agree. It was fantastic. Next, we're going into our tag team or trios.
Yeah, because there's not that many contenders anymore.
Match of the year.
This one, I think we doubled up last year because this one also got Bullet Club Gold and FTR because that match was just legendary.
It was.
So nominees, we have Bang Bang Gang versus Death Triangle, which is the trios titles match from Double or Nothing I really liked. DIY and Dunn and Bate gets back here. DIY Street Profits gets back here. Fraxium and Chase U from No Mercy. Young Bucks FTR from Dynasty. Fraxium Chase U from Heatwave was there. Young Bucks Fletcher Ospreay from Dynamite Grand Slam. Blackpool FTR from February 21st Dynamite. And then House of Black versus Kingston, Briscoe, and Copeland from Dynasty. I actually forgot about that one, so it was good.
Yeah, it was. It's you, no?
It is me. Honorable mention to the 2 SmackDown matches again. I really enjoyed them both, and DIY had some good stuff. And also, I guess that Dynasty match I forgot about, but that I do remember that being enjoyable. It was random, but it was good. And the Fraxium matches were honorable mention to them because those are the only reasons I would ever tune into an NXT show. So they were great. It was a tough year for this categorized tag team wrestling, and both companies felt like it took a dip. In WWE, the tag titles didn't see the lights of a PLE since Mania, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
Every title change since they redesigned the titles has been on TV. AEW, on the other hand, made Sting a tag champion and then had the disappointing tournament in the wake of a title vacancy, which this will not be the only time I mention it, between the best and worst of. However, we still had some gems. A somewhat lackluster year allowed for some SmackDown TV gems and Fraxium to shine. AEW still had some standouts, and particularly I enjoyed the Double or Nothing Trios match. By far the best tag match for me, though, was Ospreay and Fletcher versus the Bucks from Dynamite Grand Slam. Ospreay's been at the top of his game this year, never putting a bad foot forward and delivering near 5-star bangers like it was going out of style. Fletcher, we already praised him a bunch as well. He is one of my current favorites in the ring, and he is on the up. He and Ospreay have unmatched chemistry as teammates and opponents. This was first as teammates, and the Bucks, love them or hate them, they're one of the best tag teams to ever exist, and everything gelled here excellently. I just wish this got to be on a pay-per-view, because so it could get the luxury that is uninterrupted pay-per-view time. But I think even as a TV match, the action here was entertaining, well-paced. Both teams busted out some magnificent double teams. The finish was well done, too, with Ospreay turning down the screwdriver from Callis.
Right.
And that ultimately allowed the Bucks to capitalize and get the win. And that served to further the eventual feud and turn between them. So I thought that gets some bonus points as well. Great stuff. It was all around and gets the win for me. Although I can't help but feel in stronger for tag teams, it wouldn't get it.
I agree.
But I still loved it.
Not a banner year for tag teams, and that's why it was like really, there was nothing really jumping to the top of mind, right, as I was thinking about this, and that's because neither company is really putting the time and energy into tag team wrestling that I wish they would. So
absolutely, especially for me, it's more disappointing with AEW because they have done it so great before.
Yes.
With WWE, it's like
no surprise. That's what
it's a little disappointing because it's Triple H, but it's also like, when have they really done it? Yeah.
So I went back to my notes from a lot of shows. A lot of matches were in the same kind of range regarding match rating and quality. So I went with the one that stuck out to me, and it's probably surprising, but I went with the team and a faction that I think should get some love in these year-end awards, and that was, I was really entertained by Fraxium and Chase U at NXT No Mercy. Really fun tag match.
I did like that one.
Put the belts back on Fraxium, right? Led to Holland finally snapping and the rest to Chase U. So leading up to the end of that faction happening. So really good action. Furthered two separate stories that I was kind of into. So I like that as well. So those factors combined with, like we said, kind of a down year for tag team wrestling. This is the one tag match I know I enjoyed the in-ring action, and I actually kind of remember it without thinking too hard. So I went with Fraxium Chase U. No Mercy.
NXT gets some love.
I like that. So match of the year now for women.
Okay, so last year we both picked Ripley and Flair from Mania Night 1.
Yes.
That's the one I fell asleep at, and I
went back, and I was like, man, that match was awesome.
So we got Becky versus Rhea from Mania Night 1, Bayley and Io from Mania Night 2, Willow and Riho from Dynamite Big Business. That was a really good match.
Amanada made it, eh?
Amanada Mariah made from the first Dynamite. That was May's debut match. Actually, that was the first one we saw both of them, and we liked them both. That was crazy. The women's Money in the Bank match on the opposite end of the spectrum from the women's War Games.
Correct.
Dee versus Toni Storm from Dynasty, Roxanne Perez, Jordan Grace from NXT Battleground, Storm versus Mina Shirakawa from Forbidden Door, Masha Slamovich and Grace from Teenage Bound for Glory, Mariah May, Toni Storm All In, Willow and Statlander from All Out, Monet Statlander Full Gear, and Monet Statlander World's End.
Yeah, shout out to Monet and Statlander. They seem to have really good chemistry, and if they
despite
would
of their feud,
build something stronger around it, could be fantastic.
Absolutely.
It was a tough one this year because I didn't feel the way I did about, like, there was no women's match that blew me away. Remember?
I think there was one, but it took a while.
2 years ago, I think it was Masha and Jordan Grace that I was just like, man, there's no matches beating this. I love that match. And they had another really good match at Bound for Glory this year, but not quite at that level. And Jordan Grace again had another strong match with Perez and one with Yamashita on TV that I really enjoyed. But going back to my notes, again, it seems that the women's match I enjoyed the most came from WrestleMania, and I gave it this year to Bayley Io Sky.
I remember you liked that a lot more than me.
It was my favorite match from either night on Mania, earned my highest rating of a women's match that I saw when I went back through my notes. I gave it a 4.5 stars. Felt like a real fight, and at the time, Bayley winning that title was a great moment, right? Regardless of how they followed up on it, because they didn't really. But great match between two top talents. Like Io's one of my favorite wrestlers, full stop, in the world. And when Bayley's on, right? So I love that match, and it was my women's match. That one was 2024.
Good. Honorable mentions to both the Mania matches because I'm glad they delivered, and Willow and Riho because we're not always a Riho fan.
No, but that match was good.
This may be a bit of an outside pick, but I'm gonna take the street fight from All Out with Statlander and Willow. We had a good amount of contenders this year. It was kind of a struggle, but this one really stuck out to me. And even though I don't like her character much, Storm had some good matches. That's worth noting. However, the builds weren't always there and affected how into proceedings I was. But the feud with Statlander and Willow was more engaging. They kind of let it cool down before the match was, so that was a little
I remember
weird.
That annoyed me.
But the match still delivered. They were hot and quick from the get-go, and they had a good intensity to it. They had some hard-hitting and creative weapon usage. The thumbtack spot where Statlander did like the splits on there was crazy. The table spot on the floor was nasty. A light tube was a surprise. They only had like 15, 16 minutes, and they absolutely made the most of it. And like I said, they should have been in a dead spot since they were following.
I really liked that match.
Ospreay Pac.
Right.
But this was still fantastic. And so it was one of the few where I instantly knew it was going to be here, and I was just like, it has to be. It was like one of the few women's matches where I was like, That's the one.
They kept the energy after like an amazing
Exactly.
match. Yes. So now we'll look at match of the year for men.
So last year, obviously, we picked the match of the century, which was Ospreay Omega 2 from Forbidden Door. This is quite the category. So we have Ospreay Takeshita from Revolution, Pac Okada from Dynasty, Ospreay Danielson from Dynasty, Ospreay Swerve from Forbidden Door, Swerve Danielson All In, Pac Ospreay All Out, Swerve Hangman All Out, Punk McIntyre Bad Blood, Ospreay Ricochet Takeshita Wrestle Dream, Switchblade Hangman Wrestle Dream, Switchblade Hangman Full Gear, and Ospreay Fletcher Full Gear.
So we got a WWE snuck in there.
We did.
Punk McIntyre was the WWE match of the year, I would say.
Absolutely. Couple honorable mentions that didn't make it because I did have to make some cuts here, and it was tricky. O'Reilly Strong at Dynasty we really liked. That was a really cool, like, stylistically match. To catch a Speedball from MLP's show, that was insane. To catch a ELP from the G1, I really enjoyed. Ospreay Fletcher rematch from World's End was really good, shorter and not as good, but still really strong.
Yep.
The Dog Pound cage match from New Japan's
that was
New
fun.
Beginning, that one was pretty crazy.
Yeah, we had fun with that.
And Ospreay Okada from World's End was awesome.
Yes, we haven't reviewed it yet, but it's amazing.
It was a really good match. Regardless of which way you go and which match you want to pick, it kind of has to be Ospreay in my opinion. The only match,
or does it?
It does. The only match I'd consider picking that he's not in is Swerve Hangman. And briefly, I wanted to just say, like, I really love Pac Ospreay. I remember watching that back a bunch of times. Danielson Ospreay, those were both instant classic dream matches for me. Danielson Ospreay, I saw a lot of people pick. It just didn't strike the same chord with me. Like, I don't think I ever rewatched it. I was telling you, it's just like it didn't hit the same, even though I loved it. Ospreay Takeshita was obviously a personal dream match for me. Punk McIntyre was refreshing in modern WWE, especially with how bloody McIntyre got.
Yes.
McIntyre Bad Blood and Ospreay at World's End are kind of the same, you know. Switchblade and Hangman had a pair of bangers too that will likely fly under the radar, but are pretty flawless. I really enjoyed them.
Love both of those
against each other. Yeah. This category stacked this year. It was difficult to pick. Then there was plenty of cuts to be made, so I apologize to the matches I had to cut. My main three were Swerve Hangman, the Wrestle Dream Triple Threat, and Ospreay Fletcher. Swerve Hangman's absolutely insane, and I don't know if a single match has ever shocked or disturbed me as much as that one did, rivaled only by perhaps its greater predecessor, Texas Death. However, much like last year, and I think this was kind of our thesis for picking our match, was that match was insane, and in a lot of other years they might get it, but if a match I like as much or more that's pure wrestling comes along, that's probably what I'm going to lean towards, because at the end of the day, that's what I'm here for, right? Last year, it was the GOAT, Ospreay Omega 2, and this year, if we're going with just wrestling, it comes between the International 3-Way, Wrestle Dream, and Ospreay Fletcher from Full Gear. The former was fantastic. Action was everywhere, and it was improvement on Ospreay Ricochet. Takeshita got to look like the beast that I knew he was, and you got the crowning achievement I had long called for. That match had a finish that led to the ladder match. Ospreay and Fletcher, I think, were born to wrestle one another. They had great chemistry as teammates, but their chemistry against each other was even better and simply incredible. And I think that was backed up by another great match the month later.
Right.
They were fast from the get-go. The action was hard hitting. It had a point. It felt personal. It felt heated. Fletcher targeted Ospreay's damaged neck relentlessly, which was set up in the match or in the aftermath of the triple threat, and that was something that paid off, right, in his victory. There's too many positive things I could say. Both of them are phenomenal in the ring. Some of the sequences they pulled off were jaw-dropping, like incredibly quick, crisp, just so good. Fletcher got an incredibly emphatic. I saw it said empathetic. I was like, that's not right. No, it says emphatic and clean win, which was a refreshing sight as well.
It was.
And what I'm sure is a star-making turn from him or for him. I was surprised Cal didn't get involved, but I was just as thrilled. It's even better for Fletcher. Much like Takeshita, this was the moment I was calling for, and I don't think you picked it. I think you were doubting it. And I
think I did doubt it.
I was sure like Fletcher needed it, and boy did he, because it just catapulted him up. It's hard for me, and there's even a couple of matches I wish I could pick, but these two stood out the most for me. I think Fletcher and Ospreay has a slight edge. It's going to be my pick. It was amazing for all the things I already touched on. It absolutely delivered on my expectations, which is a huge praise, I think. And importantly, the feud and build is fantastic, because like we were talking about Monet and Salander. Those matches were great, but the feud was not there.
No.
For this one, the feud, I remember loving it in the build-up, and then the match just was a home run for me. It felt like a real personal grudge, and this beautiful match was a backdrop for that. I love pretty much everything about this. I rewatched it numerous times.
Right away.
It's fantastic. It's easily match of the year for me, and it's probably one of my favorite matches of all time.
Wow.
Because I really loved it. It was just everything I wanted it to be.
So it's crazy because I am not picking a Will Ospreay match, even though if we looked at like my top 15 matches this year, he's like
Hold
in
on.
12
Let's
or
see how
something.
many he got here. Because there's
But
Takeshita, Danielson, Swerve, Pac, the triple threat, and then Fletcher. So that's 6 matches here.
right. Somehow he's not getting it from me. I loved Danielson Osprey, Osprey Pac, Osprey Fletcher, Osprey Takeshita. But the match that hit on everything I love about wrestling, and it's winning for me this year, was Swerve Danielson from All In. I reminded you, even the pre-match segment
That
with
was really
Danielson,
good. The build for that one was great too.
where he's like meditating as his career flashes across the screen, and then they end it with him somewhat ambiguously saying he's always going to make the right choice, but you don't know, is he saying his family or is it wrestling, because he loves wrestling
that one,
that
like,
much.
I feel like they also telegraphed it too much that he was gonna win. I remember you weren't 100%
I
sure,
wasn't
but
sure.
I was pretty sure. Like, it felt a little too telegraphed for me.
And then in the match, Swerve's about to stomp Danielson's head like Danielson does in the ring, right? But he drags him out to ringside to do the stomps in front of, and Danielson's all bloody, right in front of his family, his little girl's there.
And right in front of Brie Cheese.
And he tells Birdie that she's going to wish her wish, she's going to get her wish because daddy will be coming home. And then Swerve stomp, 3 house calls, right? And Danielson said he's like, kind of is like, says he's sorry to his family. And because this is him basically choosing wrestling over his family, right? Because he kicks out of this,
he could have
just stayed down and it would have been over with. I thought this was 26 minutes of incredible action, flawless storytelling where I was like on the edge of my seat. Exactly the type of like grown up realistic sports entertainment that I wish I could watch all the time. The in-ring action's fantastic, but the storyline is so deep and so real and awesome. It took me going back and considering all the nominees to realize that this was my match of the year. I went into it assuming it would be something with Osprey, but kind of a deep dive into all my notes and footage and stuff became clear that this was the match I love the most. It's what I want from wrestling. I wish that I could bottle it up and just sell it to every promotion, and Danielson's done now, so I don't know how much we'll get this, but fantastic match, my match of the year. All right, so now we're getting into faction of the year.
Yeah, last year I picked Bang Bang Gang and you took Blackpool.
Yes.
This year we have nominated Bang Bang Gang. I think the Elite started out rocky, but I think once they added Okada and Perry, it got a lot better.
Yeah.
And I didn't end up enjoying them a bit. Blackpool, Death Riders, whatever you want to call them, because they were kind of both this year. Chase U, Hurt Syndicate, Bloodline.
Maybe.
It depends on how you look at it. Alpha Academy and Judgment Day.
Yeah, so it's me, right?
It is.
I don't think this was a very strong year for factions,
No.
and I like factions, and AEW and WDB have a lot of them, but I don't know. They're
not always like focal points in AEW, at least.
I know I have a feeling you're taking Death Riders, but they arrived a bit too late for me, and I'm not super into them anyways. I kind of surprised myself with my choice here, but again, upon reflection, the most consistently entertaining faction to me that seemed to constantly be involved in some sort of important story, that was Chase U. So I am taking them. I know it sounds crazy. Yes, some of the stories were cheesy, but they were always entertaining and felt different from everything else. I think that it's really hard to have a babyface faction with any kind of staying power.
That's true.
These guys have done it.
New Day.
And they presented major stories for elevate Duke Hudson a bit, salvage him from the whole like gambler stupid things he was doing. Thea Hale elevated Ridge Holland, say what you will about him, right? It sort of helped him. And even Andre Chase himself. So I prefer heel factions and think they're generally easier to pull off. But in less than a banner year, I thought Chase U really stood out. And it was just kind of, they're like this steadying thing. It's
well, not anymore.
No, and they're just sort of endearing, and you start to love them because they're just always there doing kind of quirky, interesting stuff. So they're my faction of the year for 2024.
Shout out to Bang Bang Gang. When they're obnoxious heels and therefore at their best, I absolutely love them in every part of them. However, this year they were marred multiple times by multiple babyface turns, one of which involved the abysmal abomination that is the Bang Bang Scissor Gang represent. And their latter face turn was less offensive, but still prevents them from being at their peak form. Theme song has some game points, though.
Nice.
And Jay White himself is a really strong babyface, so I would like to say that he's impressed me. I think the choice for this category was fairly straightforward for me once the group started running. Death Riders, I think, were great, forming in the wake of the Mox's turn on Danielson, and they were the most captivating story in the latter part of the year for me in AEW. Pretty much every promo and segment we saw them in was pretty stellar and interesting. Their darker, moodier tone was great, and the way they spoke was interesting and different from anything else. And I think all the character dynamics are great. And for me, that's kind of what I liked about them for most of the time was that kind of like Bang Bang Gang, but on a more complex level. It's like I like every level of it, and like Mox's role is great as the front man and trying to restore the Blackpool Combat Club's original vision. And then we already talked about the great dynamic with Claudia and Yuta, the big brother little brother thing. Yuta kind of being like their young boy still, but like also not.
And he doesn't. He even said he doesn't want to be part of the group. He thinks he has to be.
I thought that part was really interesting as well. And then Shafir as like the silent killer was just really cool, even though we have a documented history of not liking her. And Pac is the new one for Blackpool as well, but I just love Pac, and he's like, if you want a bully faction, that's one of the most convincing guys you could put in there. You know what I mean?
True.
So I like the storyline with them. I liked a lot of what they did, and so I'm gonna pick them for sure.
Yep.
Especially because I'm not in NXT a lot.
Makes sense. Now we're going with. I'm just noticing our nominees are sparse here.
Yeah, it's really not good.
Tag team of the year. Again, sort of reminiscent of the year of like these companies we watch not really caring about tag teams.
Last year we picked FTR, both of us. They're here kind of, but like I don't know. FTR and DIY we nominated as like they did stuff this year. I guess.
Street Profits, did they do a lot?
No, they actually. I've seen stuff like of how little they did.
Alpha Academy, no.
DIY, I think at least they had the storyline with the heel turn later
Judgment
on, and like
Day.
they won the title twice. I know because their run they didn't do anything. But the main two nominees, I guess, well, besides the FTR and DIY, are the Young Bucks and Fraxium. And so, once again, it's a tricky category. Not a lot of front runners, unfortunately. The Bucks really only got to mention due to the lengthy title run and some great matches, but some of their character work, it took a while to find their footing. As someone who doesn't watch NXT much, this will be odd, but I will easily take Fraxium. In a stronger year for tag teams, maybe they wouldn't be as likely to win, but regardless, they turned out a great body of work this year.
They did.
Their in-ring styles complement each other perfectly, and they have great matches as a result. Ever since they won the tag titles, their match is often one of, if not the most anticipated on the PLEs for me. They're an act I will make time to see on NXT.
That is true.
Mainly on PLEs, but even a handful of their TV matches that I've made time to watch. Stellar matches against Wolf Dogs, Rascals, Chase U's various forms, among others. I mean, even the recent one with No Quarter Cash Crew is good.
Right.
They were typically my favorite match on the show, if not the only one I cared about. They even had their own story going with the Tease dissension that you already talked about. It was a weak year for the category, but at the very least, it allowed them to shine, and may they never slow down.
Agree. So, yeah, just the sheer amount of trouble we had coming up with nominees is an indictment.
It's indicative of the state of
the
tag
attention they
now.
sort of pay to. The winner's super easy for me to choose. I don't even know who the competition is here. The Bucks have the titles.
The Bucks are the only competition, really.
But compared to peak Bucks, they're just okay, right? That's not them in their prime form. WWE did nothing with tag team titles of note, really.
The NXT tag titles were on like every PLE. Granted, there's less belts, but like the main roster ones were on Mania, Elimination Chamber.
And
I think that's it.
So the winner of this award by an incredibly wide margin is, of course, Fraxium. Anyone picking anything else out of the North American shows is either grasping at straws or doesn't watch NXT. They developed a gimmick as a team, put on fantastic matches all year against numerous opponents, all while miscommunicating and teasing a breakup along the way. I went from slightly annoyed with this story to loving it and hoping the team stays together despite their issues. Fraxium were thoroughly entertaining in and out of the ring. Very easy choice for tag team of the year for me.
Easily.
Now we will move into what was not so easy a choice.
It's the penultimate.
It is the penultimate one.
This one was easy for me.
It is our female wrestler of the year. We agreed last year.
We both picked Rhea Ripley.
Pretty easy choice.
This year we have Willow Nightingale, Mariah May, Toni Storm, Roxanne Perez, and Jordan Grace.
Yes.
Honorable mention to Storm. Far from my favorite character this year, but she managed to still have some great matches. And she's not horrible. It's just like not a character I like, and I don't think she should have been champion that long.
Yeah, it does not connect
at least
with
she passed the torch really well. Willow deserves a shout too. In a time where it's hard to find incredibly strong baby faces, she's one of the best around, bar none. There's a time where Perez was the frontrunner, and I'm not even a guy who watches NXT. However, I think I can confidently say I'm picking Mariah May now. I touched on her already enough in the breakout category, but I'll go on a bit more here. I just think her character work the whole year was stellar, going from the superfan lackey to like this maniacal supervillain hellbent on being at the top. The slow burn of her heel turn was fantastic. She was great in that role and being caught in the middle of Storm and Mina. She's fantastic when she broke free. She had a good match with Mina as well. Her in-ring work is some of the best in women's wrestling today, and her promos keep up as well. To think this is just the beginning of her career her mainstream career is insane. I hope AEW do all they can to keep her for as long as possible, because she's only 25, like I said, and she's fantastic.
I love that pick. I didn't pick her, but she is a breakout star and has crushed it in 2024. So she's my honorable mention, mostly because she was ascending to champion status later in the year. I think she won in August, right? And I don't feel like she's had a ton of quality opponents, a couple along the way.
Hannah J.
As a weekly NXT watcher, I'm going to give this award to Roxanne Perez, although it was pretty close. She's held the title since April, has improved her heel character. It's not my favorite all the time.
You're not on my level.
Right. And I find her recorded stuff is better than her live stuff. But she's consistently had very good matches along the way with opponents of varying abilities, right? She has to be able to wrestle some really talented women as well as some who are still developing. And I think she does all of those things really well. Also in the calculus for me is the fact that NXT puts so much focus on the women's division, right? So
that's a good point.
She's the face of a division that they actually care about and put on multiple matches and stories every week for women. Whereas May is the face of a division that is sort of like
lacking
on the back burner, unfortunately, right? Perez is the face of a thriving, very visible division, and May dominates a division that is like an afterthought. So that gave the edge to Perez, so she's my female wrestler of the year, and good for her. Nice. Not long for NXT, I feel. Main roster shortly.
I feel like it's been.
I've been saying that forever.
I feel like now there's like some contenders to beat her though. I could see Julia getting it this time.
Jada Parker? No, it has to be one of the new ones, I think.
Yeah. Jada Parker's time will come.
Yeah. So final category, our big one, and I think one of the ones that will be the least surprising to anybody, unfortunately, and that is our male wrestler of the year.
Last year we picked Ospreay.
Interesting.
I didn't know that, but and he wasn't even signed that year. So that's crazy. This year we have Ospreay, Samoa Joe,
and the rest.
Ospreay and the rest.
Yeah.
Ospreay, Joe, Swerve, Danielson, Hangman, Moxley, and against our
we threw in Cody Rhodes because people are gonna say he had a great year. But
depends on how you look at it.
I think we put a lot more weight on in-ring stuff than other people because I know there's lots of people that are like, how can you pick Ospreay? He's not even the main champion. Well, because we watch him every week, right? And he is...
And to me, the character work. I don't think Cody's character itself is that interesting.
If he were a heel, it'd be brilliant, but he's a face, so not. I hate it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is me, right?
Yeah, it's you.
Wait, no, because you went last, so then you go first, yeah?
Did I go last? Oh, I did go last. We're good at this.
We're dumb.
So
we're dumb.
Danielson had some killer matches and an awesome story arc of the final countdown stuff. Swerve and Cody had great years as champions. Swerve has like a definitive feud with Hangman under his belt. I guess Cody, you would say, with Roman. But all their years pale in comparison to this year's clear winner. And we've talked about this dozens of times throughout this year if you listen to our weekly show. It should be obvious to everyone. It's Will Ospreay. He had a year that any wrestler would kill for, and all while not holding the company's main title for even a second.
He held a mid-card title. Actually, he technically held the world title. He just didn't win it.
Right. Every match that this guy had was amazing, and the number of 4-star plus matches he had, according to us, and we're tough. Like, we don't give...
I think I went 5-star with Omega last year, right?
Right. So when we say...
That's because that's my favorite match of all time.
If you're hitting above 4 stars with FNS wrestling, you're crushing it, right? And he had a million of them.
And honestly, Ospreay Fletcher, I think I was bordering on 5. I just don't know if I want to go perfect, right?
Infinite.
Yeah.
He always had the athleticism to be great, but now it's the selling, the storytelling, the talking are all at the highest level. Incredible offense, right? Like he does stuff that nobody can do or a couple people can do. He
started doing that standing corkscrew moonsault more, and I'm just like, every time I'm just like, that's
never
stupid.
Makes mistakes. Always been able to do things in the ring that almost no one can do, but now he's the complete package and can easily be the face of the company, and I think he will be at some point in 2025. This was possibly the easiest one to decide, and it's our final award.
Might be the easiest category ever.
Will Ospreay is the male wrestler of the year. Prove me wrong. Pick something different. I dare you. Go.
Tell me when I'm telling lies. Right. Show it to Swerve. He finally reached the top like he deserved. He had some sweet matches against Kesha, Roddy, Danielson, among others. While the title run started off shaky, and Ospreay as well. He had a good match. While the title run started off shaky with like the Christian feud, he found his footing, and he proved he was worthy like we thought he was. And I'd like to give an honorable mention to Kesha. I'd almost put him here just on his in-ring work alone, because like Ospreay, whenever he's in the ring, he knocks it out of the park. Mm-hmm. With like Darby, Ospreay, Swerve, Ospreay, Ricochet, the Forbidden Door ladder match, he looked great. He was like the star of the G1. Like everyone was raving about his performance, right? He had that Continental 4-Way all out. Even he faced Mox at Double or Nothing. He sounds strong in Japanese promos, and Callis picks up the slack where needed. He finally reached gold this year, and I'm happy. I hope one day he makes it to the top, and I think with Callis as his Paul Heyman, he could.
Yep.
So I did want to mention him because Takeshita is my boy. But the category was always going to belong to Ospreay once he arrived, and AEW full time. Once he really started going, it always did. He must have been on a mission because every month, every pay-per-view, every week even, he added another notch to his resume and continued making the strongest case for Wrestlers of the Year. You look at the amount of matches or contenders we have that involve him, and it's clear, even the ones we cut. He had some amazing feuds, and his promo work is up there with the best. So here's his body of work, and I listed off pretty much everything I felt was necessary. Takeshita Revolution, I loved it. Dream match and a banger. Danielson and Dynasty, dream match and a banger. Raya Double Nothing, underrated hit and a title win for him. Swerve Forbidden Door, another banger, and he like put over Swerve to show he wasn't the transitional champion. I think that is such a cool touch as well, right?
Yes.
MJF at Dynamite 250, I already talked about that. Near hour-long banger, and they got a solid rematch at All In. Pack at All Out was an insane dream match that we were waiting for.
It was.
Takeshita Ricochet at Wrestle Dream was one of my favorite triple threats ever, and Fletcher at Full Gear, enough said about that.
Right.
Finally, World's End, he nailed 2 matches against Fletcher and Okada, both of them fantastic.
Some people are suggesting basically like 2 5-star. I wouldn't go that far, obviously, but people are saying it.
Yeah.
2 5-star matches in a night.
Which, I mean, like, I see what they're saying, and on, like, I don't disagree with the sentiment. You know
I'll say
I mean?
2 fantastic matches in a night. Easy.
Add in some amazing promos of Roddy, Fletcher, Swerve. The work he's put out this year is insane. He further proved how fantastic he is in his C2 run, ending the league stage with 2 TV Match of the Year contenders. He consistently delivers the best in every regard. He was worth every penny they paid to get him.
For sure.
I don't know if we've ever had such a clear pick runaway with this category since like Omega's belt collector run.
Yeah, we've been saying this guy wins since I don't know what month of the year.
Yeah, right. I think I was confidently writing this in June.
Right.
And I've just been altering it to be up to date. Ospreay's done it all without winning the world title. Omega, he won like 3 world titles, right? But Ospreay only sniffed it once.
Yep.
I could go on forever about how fantastic Ospreay is. He's just such an all-around great talent. Promos, you already touched on his in-ring work. It's just stellar. He's the best in the world, no doubt. And this was only his first year signed in the States, and I can't even imagine what next year will look like. He has to be world title bound, and when he does get there, I'm excited because he could be their guy.
There's no letdown in his matches because even like we love Takeshita, but there's been the odd one where I'm like 3.5 stars. You know,
or
it's pretty
he
good.
had the match with Jericho that like I don't think it's his fault, but it was still sucked.
Every Ospreay match is 4 stars and above.
Yeah,
no matter who he's with. It could be wrestling me, and he'd pull me to a 4.5 star match somehow.
Ospreay's the best.
Incredible, great year for him. I think that's wrapping up this episode. Sort of a bonus episode, one of our favorite ones to do. So hopefully you liked it. Give us some feedback if you can. However you're listening to us. We'd love to hear from anybody. We will be back. We've got episode 233 coming up on Saturday.
Worst of is
somewhere in the chamber.
And I guess we can resume the NXT saga at some point now that it's accessible.
Now that WWE's on Netflix and functional for us.
Life is good.
Life is good. So anyways, we'll see you back here for 233 on Saturday. And until then, everybody, take care.